this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This is the Porter County American Rescue Planning Steering Committee for Infrastructure and Facilities Subcommittee meeting. It's Tuesday, April 26th. It's a little past 5 p.m. and we're going to get right into our presentations. Just to give a little ground rules here, you got 15 minutes for your presentation. We will call out when you have 5 minutes left, and then when we get into the specific when we get into the question period, we also are going to limit the question period to 15 minutes as well. So we're going to try to move through these as quick as we can. We have a lot of information here. The last meeting took us 2.5 hours. I think we had close to 10 presentations. This one's just about up there with projects, so we're going to try to move it along. So here we go. First up, we have Waste and Recycling Reduction District.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Carrie.
Thank you very much for reviewing our application. On behalf, are you able to hear me? I just want to make sure that it's on the recording. Perfect. Mayor Lynch is en route. She is our board president, so if you see her coming up, please know she's part of our presentation as well. So our proposal summary, first off, is, like I said, thank you for reviewing the application. The Recycling and Waste Reduction District is seeking funding for a centralized one-stop location for waste reduction and education services for Porter County residents. In 2022, this year, the district will conduct a study that has already been budgeted to assess the district's service needs for Porter County residents. The study will evaluate the current services offered, examine the potential to expand these services, and consider the acquisition of a parcel of land necessary to accommodate the growth of the district's needs. It will also examine the operational cost attending the current and proposed services. The results of this study is what will guide the district in proposing a one-stop waste reduction and education center. Just a little bit of background. In 2019, the amount of waste generated each day by the average adult in the United States is 4.9 pounds. That is provided by the US EPA. Of that number, less than 1/3, 1.3 pounds, is reported recycled. Entered the COVID-19 pandemic, which encouraged the use of disposable barriers for immune system protection, for instance, wrapping purchased goods in plastic bags, single-use personal protective equipment. After 2 years, you just have to look around the environment. Every store you walk into, drive down our beautiful Porter County streets, and we are littered with plastic bags, masks, throwaway material. This material has also compounded the amount of waste generated daily. It has also littered our streams, our roads, our parking lots, our parks, and natural landscapes. Yesterday I was driving on the toll road, and it was very interesting. Amongst the toll road digital signs, it said, if you throw out road litter, you litter your streams. I thought that was very accurate. These dangers provide hazardous materials. There's plastics, there's microplastics. All of this is breaking down and leaching into our soils. So unfortunately, it's the government who is obligated to provide the alternate resources for proper collection, disposal, containment, as well as educating the members of our community on how to properly get rid of this material. Just to give you an idea what's happened in 2021, local municipalities were also forced this year to send their household recyclables to landfills due to issues of contamination. This is happening across Porter County. This is happening across the globe. It is defined as the combination of non-recyclable and recyclable material. Contamination affects all of us greatly. It affects municipality budgets. It affects our environment. It affects materials that could be repurposed, and they end up actually going into the landfills, which then do not decompose. Right now, plastic does not decompose, so plastic that hits our environment could be there 100 years. We're starting to see it actually in our bodies. Research is coming out on microplastics and nanoplastics. So 20 years ago when Body Worlds came out, that was a pretty neat museum study watching what it looked like with arteries and veins through your body, but unfortunately it is actually happening scientifically. You can start to see that. So there's going to be major health there's just major health issues that are related to plastics and recyclable material. So yes, recycling material reduces cost of extracting and providing new raw material, but we have to work on educating and continuously communicating what changes are happening in the recycling environment. Interestingly, the question we get asked all the time is, why are things being thrown away? Things are being thrown away because we are driven by an economics is what drives recycling. If there is not supply and demand, if you look at the China sword that we've all faced from 2017 to 2018, it's because we do not know what to do with these goods. Therefore, if no one wants them, they go to a landfill. If we have a repurposed process, you can look at this material. We have new facilities going up. Cassopolis, Michigan, not very far from us, just is opening a new facility. Brightmark and Ashley, Indiana are starting new chemical different technologies that they're utilizing to utilize as plastics. But that's just part of the solution. It's not the solution. So to give an idea, the mission and vision of the Recycling and Waste Reduction District is we are the local government authority for information regarding recycling, yard waste, and household hazardous waste services. Our scope of service in Porter County encompasses 170,000 residents within that area. That includes commercial businesses, nonprofits, schools, approximately 6,000 plus students. We have a licensed teacher on staff who actually is out educating environmental and background composting, working with local schools, also private schools, as well as the YMCAs and summer camps to educate our kids on environmental issues. Our district is one of 70 solid waste management districts independently operating in the state of Indiana. In 1990, just to give everybody a little bit of background, Indiana adopted House Enrolled Act 1240, outlining 70 independent districts across the state. This allows us to properly focus as a solid waste management district. But our vision is what really keeps us going. Our vision is constantly to focus, to engage all of Porter County residents in effective waste reduction lifestyle. So that's reminding people, use a reusable bottle, bring your reusable totes to the grocery store. Do not just take a plastic fork and throw it away. So this is what comes to our problem. We are limited to waste reduction services because of the space we are limited to. We have great partnerships with the city of Portage. We have great partnerships with the city of Valparaiso and all of the municipalities here in Porter County. Our office is located here in the Porter County Admin Building, but we actually operate 5 compost sites. We manage them, and 3 of them are open to the public. We do a lot of things. Portage this year, due to the issues of contamination, we were just able to expand drop-off recycling, electronics recycling, plastic bag recycling. All of these things happen because of municipality and partnerships. Unfortunately, the site that's owned by the district itself is Boone Grove, and it's only a 3-acre facility, a 3-acre parcel. It's the old Porter County Highway Department building. If you go down there, that site is jam-packed. 2 years ago, when I started in 2019, the site was only open 27 hours. We are now open 42 hours. We have very busy every day. We have 50 to 75 people bringing yard waste, recycling material here at this little 3-acre yard facility. Our Valparaiso site, if you look at our numbers, we averaged last year 35,000 visitors to the compost sites here in Porter County. That's a lot of visitors who bring in a lot of different material. So that's part of our problem. We're limited in space. Because we're limited in space and our collection, we're not able to collect all of the great material we could. For example, styrofoam. Styrofoam is something we could be collecting amongst our area. It can be repurposed and recycled. We do not have a facility or a space big enough to handle this material. The next issue is our household hazardous waste events. We're gearing up for our first season, May 7th, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. We get calls weekly, almost every day. Oh, we're moving, we have leftover antifreeze, we have tires, we have medical sharps. Where can we dispose of this material? the district only offers 6 collections in the entire year. If we had a one-stop shop location, we'd be able to offer something like a Tax-Away Tuesdays. Every Tuesdays, residents could drop off material. This is just a projected idea, that people could come and drop off things that they wouldn't have to hold for 3 to 6 months, from your household chemicals to your hazardous waste material. This year we found out vaping supplies are now considered household hazardous waste, so residents can bring those to us as well. So with these, we get lots of disappointments, but it's the best we can do. So our solution that we are projecting is that another solution we're projecting, plastic bags. We've all been caught up on it. You've gone to the grocery store, now the plastic bags are really thin, so you get 2 to 3 of them. We work with the city of Valparaiso very closely, and we started realizing that with the pandemic, plastic bags were no longer being collected, but yet when you went to the grocery stores, your items were being double and triple bagged in plastic bags because of the contamination issues. In 2020, we started collecting them at the compost site and at our household hazardous waste events. In 2021, we collected 35,000 pounds of plastic bags. I ask you to go home and just grab one plastic bag and think, how many plastic bags is that? That's nearly the size of a payloader, which carries the compost across our sites, or down the highway roads when you see them on work sites. This year in 2022, we've expanded our collections to more household hazardous waste events. We've added drop-off electronics to the Portage compost site. We've added drop-off recycling. So for those residents who are facing contamination issues, knowing the recyclables are going to the landfill, we have now offered them a solution in Portage. We're getting people who are calling us saying, can we drop this? Can we bring this? We're getting more participation from, we just had an elected official from Ogden Dunes reach out to say, how do we get involved? We have
minutes remaining.
Okay, thank you. So we have other services, like we said, the TerraCycle program, the recycling program, the different candy wrapper containers that we can certainly offer. There are so many options and opportunities. We look at our neighbors from LaPorte County to Lake County and the different services they offer. At one point, Porter County has been leading the way in recycling, which that's great. We are reached out from different parts of Indiana who reach out to say, how do you manage your compost sites? We are well respected, yet we still need to continue and move this forward. So the district is seeking approximately $1 million to assist in the design and operational plan to develop a waste reduction and education center. This is based off the study I said earlier that will be conducted this year, and we're hoping that the ARPA funds might be able to assist us. We currently owe no debt. We have approximately $1 million that we could match in acquiring this facility. The equipment we have, it's owned, it's outright purchased. We've recently acquired in the past 3 years a couple of new pieces of equipment, so we feel like we are moving forward. And we also have a user fee that at this area, we are one of the lowest user fees for all the recycling services that we offer. At this time, it is at a $20 user fee rate per person with a dwelling on it in Porter County. So we've not had an increase in over 7 years on that fee. So by project outcomes, we can foresee that we easily could acquire a piece of land based off the study, or a piece of piece of property. It doesn't have to be a piece of land. What depends what the study is projecting, and what, do we need a 5 acre, do we need a 10 acre, do we need a 20 acre? We're looking forward to the results of our study that we hope to have completed very soon. So, and we look forward to all the different services we can offer, from having an education site to bringing kids on site so that they can do classes, they can play with the worms, they can grow, they can expand with all the different recycling services we can offer. And we are more excited to know that residents can drop off household hazardous waste on a more routine basis than 6 times a year. So we just say we're fortunate to live in a community that wants to reduce waste, and we have residents who reach out to us constantly seeking alternative methods rather than disposal. So with landfill space so limited, sending contaminated materials also costs so much more. So it could be repurposed, and it represents a lost opportunity, as well as additional costs levied upon the municipality and the environment. Bottom line is, it costs major dollars to dispose of waste. If we do not make a paradigm shift and change to a waste reduction method, we all lose. And unfortunately, as evidenced and felt across the globe, health is our wealth, and that's what we have. So we hope that we can sustain Porter County and take care of our environment as well. So Thank you.
Okay. Next presentation is Porter County Tourism. Yeah, that's on the public comment, but is that what we did last time?
After each presentation.
Oh, we did? Oh, okay. We can open it up for questions then after, I thought we were going to do at the end. Do you think we should have the questions after each one while it's still in our mind?
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah, can you, Lorelei, we're going to have Carrie come back up for questions.
That's how we did it.
That's how we did it last time, yep. Sorry about that, folks. Carrie,
Yeah, that's fine.
get it
I
out of the
was
way.
just getting a more comfortable seat. So.
Yeah,
I wasn't running, I just sat in this room long enough.
I almost followed you.
Oh, no, you're okay, I'll hop over. I think, okay.
Yeah, I do, thank you.
There you go. Okay.
So let's, we got 15 minutes here. We can give some questions or question and answer for her. So from the board, it's open.
Do you have a time frame on when that study is going to be completed that you're working on now?
Our study, we are proposing it to our board meeting is in May, and we're having our board open it and review it, and then we're going to put the RFP as soon as we get our blessing from the board to move forward. So I can see the study being done this year easily. So we're ready to move forward. We're excited to see what options and internal things that we can do or what the residents want to see us do. So we're excited for that. So.
Thank you.
You're
Just
welcome.
for clarity, you're waiting on design, you're waiting on size of parcel, you're waiting on all those items based on the study?
Yes, absolutely. So we've had, and I know we have board members in here as well, but this has been discussed goes back and forth, and the best discussion that came up was we need to have a study. We need to have a study done to assess what are the operational district needs. It's been talked about, do you add a food compost site? Do you add another compost site? Do you add a centralized compost site? There's so many questions that are brought up from residents and board members, so it was discussed the best solution is to have a study to decide what those operational needs are for right now and future forward. So
Did I catch you have a 1 million in matching funds already available?
we do have 1 million in, correct, we should, yes. We've been very fiscally responsible with our funds, so.
Yes, Carrie, do you have property? I'm on the board, so I
Sure.
know this. You talk about the questions and that, it does go on back and forth, back and forth. Do you have property now that you could honestly say you have to purchase?
No, you mean that we're actually inquiring and looking at? No, we have not. So the only property the district owns is that Boone Grove compost site, which is the former Porter County Highway garage. So
Carrie, are you assuming or hoping that when the study comes back, depending on how much land you need and how big of a building you need, that somehow you'll fit that within a potential $2 million scope?
I just know that's our starting point. So, we want to see what the projection is, what's the cost going to be. There's a lot of cost projections, obviously, going to be entailed, versus a 5-acre lot versus a 20-acre lot. The cost of the building, currently we pay for rental facilities, so you're able to just justify some of these. Okay, well, we're currently paying this, now I can move it towards a mortgage. Is there going to be some debt that's involved? Is there going to be some different financial analysis that are going to have to be completed? Absolutely. I fully believe that, but I believe the $2 million is at least a point that we can acquire a parcel, we can acquire some project that we can be moving forward on, so.
Does that, I mean, we're sort of all waiting on the study, right?
Agreed.
And you're also talking about a lot of different services you want to add.
Agreed.
So I'm guessing with that, you're going to be adding operational costs moving in.
You could.
And so for me, with the rate that you have, it seems premature to me to be working on a piece of land when you don't even know what the scope, I mean, will all these services that you want to add, will that rate keep up with that? I mean, I'm on the board too, and I
Sure.
see the numbers.
Sure.
And the other thing that's the elephant in the room here is the recycle markets.
Of course.
And that's what turned this whole thing around 4 or 5 years ago when the recycle markets went to who? They went to zero. It's to the
Absolutely.
point now where we have to pay to get our recycling out. Before, it was a revenue source for us. So I think for me, being on the board, I think there is a lack of facility, but I think studying it and coming up with not only your building structure, everybody wants to talk about the buildings.
Sure.
It's the operational piece that is the death nail to all of this stuff. It's the reoccurring cost year after year. You set it and forget it. And what I'm afraid of is we're going to go move into a corner here, and then we're going to find out that we want to do all this stuff, but we need to increase the rate. And I think that there's not, I think that can be a discussion or whatever, but I think we're getting a little ahead of the ball game here, at least for me. But I do know there is a need. I think the timing is what we're dealing with. And I know for one, I'm looking forward to that study because I think it's going to give us a pathway forward for this county, and I think that's what we need. But I appreciate you putting your best foot forward and coming in here, and it's good discussion, and it's good information, so.
It's great information, and we were happy to share lots of recycling. We're out and about sharing the information on recycling to all the communities as well, so we're happy to do that too.
Carrie, for the benefit of the public, you mentioned that your fee, which is $20, annual $20.
Correct.
It hasn't been increased since 2015. Maybe for the benefit of the public, talk about how would that change, and have you considered changing it? And if not, why not, or who would do it? How would you go about that if that was something?
So we're also anticipating by having the same study done that this will address those same needs, because we can look at exactly, that's part of the study. We keep calling it, in my office, I call it the operational study, and that's exactly what it is, because it's an internal operation to say how much does it cost to run the composting site at 5 facilities? How much does it cost to staff all of them? How much does it cost for personnel services? How much does it cost when you have to add your benefits and your, short-term, all these different, included from part-time to full-time employees? And we just look at what we have gone through this past year. Right now, we're in a labor shortage, and we just keep talking about the number. You have to keep rising and rising and rising. And at one point, $15 was thought to be a great, wow, that's a great $15. You're hoping you can get somebody to work for you for $15. So we are addressing that. That's part of the study. This is what we're looking at, because we want to do it. We want to add these services. Some of the services will only require us to have a box or a collection. It might not have to be technically a manned position, if you'd like to say it, but it requires a site and a location. We chuckle that I can't imagine the commissioners would like me to fill the whole foyer with, you could drop off your old ink pens and your ink cartridges. The batteries, we're blessed, we're thankful, thank you for letting us do the batteries, but all the different opportunities and things you could add to these sites, we could certainly do. So, but an operational study is absolutely needed. So the $20 is based off of how we have projected and how we've grown, and so now we are growing and more services are growing, so it's part of the study. It needs to be projected and looked at where we're running right now and how to project it for the next years to come and where the rates do need to increase, so.
Okay, do you know offhand any, what other counties are
I
charging?
do.
Just for reference.
So just please don't fall out of your seats. So LaPorte County, it's $72 annually to our $20. And Lake County is charged by a tax rate, so it's not considered the same because it's not a user fee. It's a user fee, it's a one-time, once a year. It actually pays out in your property taxes, so, but yeah, LaPorte County is $72 and Porter is only $20.
Similar services?
Similar services, actually Porter offers a lot more services. We're blessed to have that, but LaPorte does actually handle curbside for the entire county as well.
One other question I wanted, if you do get this one-stop site, then would all the others, the other 5 or 6 you have, would they all go away?
I do not see that they would go away. I see that this would be another location where more residents, I mean, I get comments from the city of Valparaiso residents who tell me to go up the road right here in 130, that it's too far to go. If you're a city of Valparaiso resident, it's too far to head up to 130 when you live on the other side of town. So we can obviously see a centralized location in the community, and we can see that it would be populated. I mean, we get lots of visitors from all of our sites, so.
Any other questions from the board?
You know, one thing, just maybe my last question. So the charge that we've been given, Carrie, for this particular subcommittee, and knowing there's flexibility and projects are moved from one committee to different committee, and there's no perfect format to it. But I look here and it talks, for us specifically, it says focusing on investments in water, sewer, and broadband, and unincorporated Porter County, and COVID mitigation and prevention in county-owned buildings, including information technology service. Now, that's just one part of our charge. But in terms of how this could be related to, COVID mitigation or prevention, can you touch on that for a moment?
Sure, of course. So one of the things that has certainly happened with COVID is we've had increase of so much plastic waste. We've had increase of waste. So those numbers, I'm looking forward to, sadly, of what the EPA is going to release on what the average amount of waste every adult American, how much we create every day. We're easily going to be over 5 pounds. So when you start looking at it, it has become normal to take out food, and it's styrofoam, it's plastic bags. So styrofoam can actually be recycled. Plastic bags can actually come into another purpose to be recycled, but we do not have a facility where we can collect that material. If we had that location, we'd be able to do that. This is how it relates to COVID. We've increased masks. Just drive up and down the roads, you see all the bags. We would like to promote more education and signage to encourage people to reuse their bags. So, instead of, how many times have we walked into a grocery store and go, oh, I've got my car full of bags and I forgot to bring them in. We're trying to promote more education and encouraging people to do this. So in regards to the COVID, it also relates to health. Like I said, the plastics that are entering our bodies and our natural waterways is just profound. The studies the EPA has released already, Dr. Julie Peller, actually here at Valparaiso University, the study she's doing on what is found in the Great Lakes is also, it's very eye-opening that it's already entering our local region at high levels.
Thanks.
I'd just like to comment one thing. You said that us and LaPorte are doing the same type of services, and they're 70-something and we're 20, but then you said they do curbside pickup. That's totally different.
In regards to, yet they manage the household hazardous waste, they still have a teacher who goes out.
What I'm trying to say, Carrie, is if they have door-to-door pickup, their rate is going to be higher.
Sure.
I mean, we don't have that because the garbage companies pick that up. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the numbers here, because if you were saying that we're sort of similar to LaPorte, and I'm not really thinking that we're that similar because of the rate.
Sure. And one of this, they do not offer drop-off recycling, so we have 6 locations in Porter County where you can take like your extra cardboard and your extra plastics. LaPorte does not offer that at all because they do manage the curbside program for all of the entire county.
Drop-off,
Sure.
not a pickup. So
Yeah,
it's a lot
true.
less labor
Sure.
intensive.
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay.
So,
Good.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Yep, you too, Carrie. Next up, Porter County Tourism. Yep.
Good evening, my name is Lorelei Weimer, and I am with the Indiana Dunes Tourism. I will be referring to this document that I passed out, so that'll be the document that we'll refer to. I do have 2 special guests. I have Paul Labovitz, who is the superintendent of the National Park, and Christine Livingston, who is the assistant director of Indiana Dunes Tourism, and they will both, hopefully, if our time frame, will be up here to speak as well. So if you go to page 2, the last 3 years have been an incredible roller coaster for our area. In 2019, we became the 61st national park in the country, which was significant. We did a benchmark economic impact study at that time, just as that was the best year we had on record. And there was, if you go to page 3, $539 million generated by visitor spending that year. If you turn to page 4, we had in 2019, 6.3 million visitors. And on page 5, there are 5,872 jobs because of that visitor spending in our area. If you go to page 6, we were hit, like everybody else globally, with the pandemic. We did another economic impact study to determine the impact from the coronavirus in 2020. We lost in our industry within Porter County almost $72 million because of that event. If you look at page 7, according to the STAR report, which looks at the health of hotels, the U.S. average hotel occupancy and average daily rate declined by 53% throughout the U.S., while in Porter County, we only declined by 22%. So you can imagine the loss that we had was significant, but it could have been worse. If you turn to page 8, this tells you why we fared better than the U.S. average, and that is because of the Indiana Dunes National and State Park. That park, those parks saved our industry in terms of having a stronger economic loss. If you look at page 9, you will see the visitation to the Indiana Dunes in 2018 was 3.2 million visitors. In 2019, it increased to 3.6 million. In 2020, it went to 4.2 million. And in 2021, we had 5 million visitors at the Indiana Dunes State and National Park. If you turn to page 10, those are the top 10 most visited national parks in the nation. You will see that the Indiana Dunes State and National Park at 5 million visitors, we tied Zion National Park for second place. We beat out Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, Rocky Mountain, Grand Tetons, Yosemite National Parks, which is incredible. When you look at the demographics of the Indiana Dunes, 80% of the visitors are from outside of Northwest Indiana, and 60% are from outside the state of Indiana. If you turn to page 12, one of the things that we've noticed, and this is only by interacting with the visitors within the visitor center, we have noticed that since the name change, the visitors are staying longer, so we have a longer season. They're starting to come in March, and they're going through October. Hiking has increased considerably, so that means that we're just not known as a beach destination, which is a shorter season. People are doing more research on their destination, so when they're coming into the visitor center, they have really specific questions that they're either asking our staff or the rangers. And people are also increasing their length of stay, so this is just through conversations that we're having. When you look at page 13, the mission of our organization is to market Porter County, to get people excited to not only come to the Indiana Dunes, but to get them to shake off the sand south of the dunes and get them into our communities. On page 13, these are all the various tools that we use to market the county. When you turn to page 14, you will see one of the other marketing tools that's really important to us, and that's the Indiana Dunes Visitor Center. This is the official visitor center not only for Porter County, but it is the official visitor center for the Indiana Dunes National Park. So when you're thinking about those 5 million visitors, those are 5 million people that have chosen to come to our destination. We think that we have an opportunity to increase the revenues for Porter County leisure and hospitality industry if we can intercept those visitors. So the goal is, can we get more visitors through the doors of the visitor center where we can give them a deeper knowledge of the dunes, but get them into our communities. Now, if you turn to page 16, you're going to see the visitation results. We were averaging around 100,000 visitors to the visitor center until the name change. And then our visitation increased by 83% to 170,000 visitors. In 2021, we had about 156,000 visitors. And what our goal is we want to increase that visitation to between 225,000 to 250,000 visitors. So that's our goal in terms of getting people to the visitor center. When you look at page 17, we want the visitor center to become a must-see attraction, and we want the visitor center to be the first stop for visitors when they arrive in our destination. So we are seeking $3 million for the visitor center redesign and phase 1, and to complete phase 1 is the Indigenous Cultural Trail that we're doing on that property. If you turn to page 18, if you have not been to the visitor center, I would encourage you to come, but we have a very solid building. We moved in 2006. But the displays are 16 years old and they're very tired. And so we want to redesign the lobby, the exhibit room, the theater, and the outside space. If you look at page 19, this is one of the concept plans. So when you would enter the visitor center, we want to lead with the big gun, which is the Indiana Dunes. We want to give a much deeper understanding of the dunes. But we want the displays to be much more engaging, interactive, and experiential throughout the visitor center. If you turn to page 20, since the pandemic, this room has become quite a hodgepodge of different items, and we've got a video going in there. We've got 2 videos. We've got artwork. We've got brochure racks. But what we want to do is we want to take that space and we want to turn it into what you see on page 21. And that is where we are going to really sell the communities. We are going to make sure they understand what the communities have to offer. We're going to make sure they understand about our lodging, our restaurants, our attractions, our festivals and events. So this room is critical in getting people excited to go south of the dunes and really start to spend that money within our communities. If you turn to page 22, this is the Indigenous Cultural Trail. We are very fortunate that we have been working from day one with both the Miami and the Potawatomi tribe. The goal is to really tell that deeper story of the indigenous people that were from our area. And so if you look on page 23, where you see the visitor center property, that will be phase 1, and Porter County Commissioners own that property and the building. All of the land surrounding the visitor center is owned by the National Park Service. So phase 1 of the Indigenous Cultural Trail will start at the visitor center, and then it will make its way on to the National Park property. If you turn to page 24, that just gives you an idea of the arrival experience that visitors will experience once they get off of State Road 49, and that turtle is part of the Indigenous Cultural Trail, and that's also a sensory garden. So that will take place at the visitor center. And then on page 25 is the breakdown of the cost for the inside and outside and the Indigenous Cultural Trail, which gets us to the $3 million. And then if you turn to page 26, why we like this project is because it's going to have a positive impact on all of our communities. We have 11 cities and towns, and we feel all of the communities will benefit from this project. And this project will support our hotels, restaurants, attractions, and retailers. These are amenities that you and I, as Porter County residents, get to enjoy, which increases our quality of place and quality of life. So we think that everybody benefits greatly from this project. If you look at page 27, we had an outsider take a look at all of our data and try to give us an estimate on what the economic return would be. So we're hoping that this project will be considered an investment, and that they feel that based on the numbers that they put together, that we would increase spending within the communities by $20 million annually. And now I'd like to go ahead, the final thing, and this is really important. We understand that we're asking for $3 million to redo our public space, but we know we can't continue down the road to do that. So we would like to get the $3 million, get us up to speed, and then we are trying to find new revenue sources to make sure that we have the money in the future to continue to keep these displays updated. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a lot more of the retail within the visitor center itself, and we feel that that's going to be the revenue that's going to allow us to continue to keep these displays upgraded moving forward. And with that, I'd like to have Paul come up from the National Park Service, and then after that, Christine.
5 minutes remaining.
We have 5 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. So I'm Paul Labovitz. I'm the superintendent at the National Park Service at Indiana Dunes National Park, and a proud and great partner with the County of Porter. Really happy to be here. Thanks for listening to us. A couple things that strike me about this: we've been working for years on converting the layout of the building to have the form better imitate the function it needs. And so the building's been there for 2006, and if we knew then what we know now, we'd have done things differently. It's the one thing that you didn't mention, which I was surprised, was the reformatting of the theater, where we show the park film. It's fixed seating right now. The new plan would be to have movable seating so that room could be retasked for other purposes, including special events, even revenue-generating events. I think the revenue generation of retail sales there is really undersold We have a gift shop in the visitor center. The mission of our partner that runs that is not revenue generation, it's interpretive experience. And so we've had over $1 million of sales there in the last 3 years, including during the pandemic, and none of that money has stayed at Indiana Dunes National Park. It's actually gone out to help some of the smaller parks that are part of our region. And so we're going to find another location or two in the park for that partner to do that retail, and then the revenue that's generated by sales at the visitor center will stay here in Porter County and help with the continued upkeep of the building and future renovations. I think the interior work, the exterior work with the Indigenous Cultural Trail will, I mean, the building is in the perfect location for this facility. It's between two highways in the very center of the national park, one of the most visited in the country. And if we make it a compelling stop with relevant changing exhibits, maybe some snacks and some great retail, everybody's going to stop there, including our local visitors who tend not to stop there and see what's new, spend a little money, and make it a giant success story. So we're very excited. We're pursuing some federal revenue opportunities to help with some of this work over time, and we really do appreciate your continued support. So thank you. And Christine?
Good evening. Lorelei asked me to just say a couple of words about the Indigenous Cultural Trail because that's what I've been spearheading. So just a word about the partnership began 4 years ago with the concept that we would just put a little trail back there on the 15 acres that is the national park. And it has evolved since then into something much bigger under the vision of Lorelei and also the working group that we have with both the Miami and the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi. So I could talk for a long time about that, but I only have 2 minutes. I thought my time would be best spent reading a support letter that I just got from the Potawatomi because she really says it well, and it's in the words of the tribe. The Pokagon Band of Potawatomi, descendants of Potawatomi Nation, lived and coexisted in the lands of Indiana Dunes area, and many continue to do so to this day. The Pokagon Band desires to educate visitors and residents regarding their ties to the Indiana Dunes area, to educate regarding the presence of indigenous peoples today and during historic times. Having representatives of multiple tribes helping to develop the idea of the Indiana Dunes Indigenous Cultural Trail ensures that the project is being done in a good way, considering the viewpoints of all those involved in the development. With the development of the trail, visitors and residents will be able to relate better to the tribes of the region, knowing more about their history, language, and culture. With the support of grants, NGOs, and the greater community, ICT will become a key attraction to the area and will also demonstrate what can be accomplished with active and considerate collaboration among the different cultures. The Pokagon Band looks forward to the day that the tribal flags are flown in front of the Indiana Dunes Visitor Center, signifying the culmination of collaborative work amongst diverse stakeholders. So this is a big vision that we have, and we feel the indigenous story is really undertold in our region, and here we have a unique opportunity to work with the tribes to really tell that story in an authentic way and weave it in with the Indiana Dunes story as well.
And thank you, and now we will entertain questions that you may have.
I have a question. State laws kind of said that, and you mentioned it, I believe, that the income that you get from selling things go into a fund where other state parks is taken away and is funded at other state parks. Has this legislators passed laws where now you're able to capture that money and keep it here?
Yeah, so I'll let Paul answer that question. Did you want to answer that? It's about the Eastern
Sure.
National?
So we're a national, federal agency. We work with a nonprofit called Eastern National Parks, which coordinates the gift areas in a whole bunch of national parks across the country. And so it doesn't, quote-unquote, answer to state law. It's part of a national agreement between the National Park Service and Eastern National. And so large revenue-producing sites like Indiana Dunes help some really small national parks that either don't have sales areas or don't generate enough revenue to cover the costs. So we're a donor to the rest of the national park system. And frankly, it's a 40-year-old business model that we're hoping to see some change with. I'd be happy to talk more about it. how much time do you have?
No, that's okay, that's okay.
Well, and to follow up on Sylvia's question, I think, Paul, you mentioned you're working with that vendor to maybe find alternative locations within the park that would allow some of that revenue generated, or the revenue generated via sales at the tourism center, to be funneled back to the county? Did I follow that correctly?
So the revenue at the visitor center with this new model would be the county's retail operation, and they would be in control of those revenues.
Okay.
Our partner would potentially
Got it.
have other sites in the park, outside of the visitor center, to do that philanthropic work with other smaller parks.
Got it.
The average revenue, the average money spent by park visitors nationally is, in 2006, was $1. And so if we just met that average that's 15, 16 years old, we're only generating less than 10% of that revenue here now with our sales area. We want to capture that revenue for Porter County.
So you're relying on that for your match, right? Because people need to understand, we own the building, but we have a lease with the National Park Service. And in that lease, there's criteria of who pays for what when it comes to the maintenance of the buildings and everything else. I've been hearing for years, ever since that place was built, that we needed to change the retail, and it's never happened. And now we're getting to, now we think we're going to have all this money unleashing everything, and I think the other question that I have too is on the actual building itself. Are you going to modify the bathrooms? And you're going to increase more bathrooms, because the bathrooms are why people stop there. I mean, we all know that. And it's been locked a lot, and there's a lot of problems that we've had up there wanting to clean these and wanting to do these. So if we're going to get in this business, we better do it right. And I would also, if this moves forward, I would also say that the first thing you do out there is your sign out front, you make it a national park sign. Because that is one of the most top 10 most identifiable brands in the world, is the National Park Service. And we should rally behind that. And I think that, that's my concern. I'm a little bit vocal about it. I'm also in the hotel business. I've been running hotels in this town for 28 years. And I've seen this go on a long time. And I never thought I'd get my opportunity to speak my piece, but I guess tonight I get to. Sorry. But we're working very closely with Paul right now, developing our Market Greenway Trail, 9 miles. We've accumulated over $11 million in federal and state money to build this. Now we just got to get the engineering done. So I understand the other shoe is going to drop here, and with NICD and the train lines and the bikes coming out, and I understand all that. But I think my concern is that, I'd like to see the National Park Service take a little bit more of a front step here in this and be more of a partner with us, rather than waiting on the come of revenue we think may happen. So
can I
Sure.
address two things, Commissioner Good? We are working on eliminating the General Services Administration, GSA, with the federal lease, and working directly with the National Park Service in the county.
that'll be a big help.
But that process is underway, and we have also initiated the steps of changing Eastern National's retail location from the visitor center to other locations in the park.
I think for people that, I know this stuff nerdy, but the unique thing about that building is because it is not on national park ground, you have the opportunity to market it. And you can bring outside money in to name it, to do other things. If you were on the park ground, no. So we're very lucky here in the situation that we all had the forethought, right, to build in the right spot. Now we need to figure out how we use other places to leverage that and tell our tourism, our steel, our environmental, tell all of our stories up there, because there's a lot to be told. We know that. So it's exciting, but I have a few concerns, but I'm glad to see it being brought forward. I think I was with Costa Dillon 10 years ago when we went through the first iterations that the people in Washington came up with conceptuals and everything, and I remember all that, which was I still remember that big Lake Michigan lagoon in the lobby when you walked in that showed the depths of Lake Michigan, and I just thought that was very interactive, and those are the kind of things you need to do to draw people's attention. So, sorry, it's in my lane, so I went for it. So,
The building itself, there's no physical reconstruction to it, it's only interior work, is that correct?
Yes, there will be some physical work inside, so like we would be taking the wall out between the theater and the exhibit room, and it will have a movable wall. So there'll be some structural changes, but I think when it's all said and done, maybe 20% of the money would be structural, but not physically outside, more inside, but 80% of it's going to be more displays and all of the exhibitry.
And I guess why I'm asking is because arrival experience you didn't have in here is 1.1 million, and the destination experience is 800,000. And I'm just trying to figure out how you get to those numbers without any kind of physical changes to the building.
So, and part of those would be including the physical, like the wall. So also, one of the things when we first did the concept plans, we were not a national park, so we were shrinking the square footage for the bookstore. But now that we've become a national park, we're now increasing the square footage, and we're going to have to break into the wall where we have our projection room. So we're going to have to break into the theater to go a little bit further for the square footage. So there are going to be some physical changes to the room. And then we are going to shut off we have a stage. If you've been in our visitor center, there's a theater and there's a stage. That stage will now become storage. We're going to put a wall up in front of that. So there's definitely some physical changes.
And these numbers are based on estimates you've had done already, quotes,
Right,
work?
quotes, the architect gave us the estimations.
So with the architect giving you those, is that more of a conceptual idea, or have you actually done an RFP at this point?
We're going to be doing an RFQ.
Okay.
So more off of the concept plans.
So Lorelei, for the $3 million ask, the arrival experience, just to make sure I understand, that's the turtle?
No, that's the arrival is in the building. When you first walk in, it's now going to be, the bookstore will be removed, and that's that first photo I showed you.
Okay.
So the arrival, they kind of had,
That's the indoors then? is what
Yeah,
you're
it's
saying.
all the indoors.
Okay. And the turtle,
the turtle is the Indigenous Cultural Trail. I will let you know that that's completely ready to go, almost shovel-ready. So Christine's had all the engineering done, so that $600,000 is to get that part done. And if you look at the original proposal I sent you guys, it has all the photos, all the concept plans for that project.
so from a trail standpoint, I mean, it's not a big or long trail. It's
It's a relatively short trail, and we've already raised close to $400,000 for that aspect of it. It's pretty far along, the engineering is complete. We are already starting to put in the physical aspects, so this is just to match that 400 that we already have.
So does that mean that the ask is 200,000 for the trail?
No, the 400 that we've already raised that separately.
So I
from
put
the-
600,000 in there,
Yeah.
so that would,
It's $1 million.
so it's
So
a
the
million.
total trail is
yeah.
$1 million. Is there any other totals, items like that are more than what you're projecting here, but you've got some sort of match for?
No, I think that's the full project. And then what happens, Mike, is so the trail will start in the visitor center, and then the part that we have to work on next will then be the concept plans for the national park site. So we wanted to get our part done and get it in the ground, and then we'll start on the concept plan. So the thing that, when you transition, I'm trying to think, I don't think I have it in here, it's in one of the plans, is that you'll see a big shelter. That's the transition from our site over to the national park site. And that shelter, which is going to be a really cool shelter, will then be the start of the trail on the national park site, and that's under their purview.
So I guess part of my question would be, in terms of, you have 400,000 that you're going to match for the indigenous trail.
Right.
How is the rest of your funding? I mean, how are you financially set at this point, in terms of how much money do you have in the
So
bank?
for the visitor center redesign project, we basically have nothing. So we have the money that we've set aside, we put for the Indigenous Cultural Trail, but we don't have the money for the.
How much money do you have in a rainy day fund?
We have about 900,000, so our crisis stability fund, and then also we were very underfunded, Jeff, for we're going to be coming up on we're 16 years, so we're going to have roof, we're going to have parking lot. That was very underfunded. We did not have the formula correct that was given to us. So
You hear that?
yeah, so we've really had to.
Formula and the GSA lease.
No, it was what the architect gave us in 2006. So it was off, and we didn't realize how off it was. So we shored that up, and then we've also shored up the crisis stability fund.
So, and then the next question for me is then, in terms of the national parks involvement, is there a contribution from that end?
Yeah.
To help any of this?
I think potentially with our new fee revenue, we have a cash stream coming starting this year that we anticipate spending some of it there because it's part of the visitor experience.
A cash stream,
So we're projecting anywhere from $1 to $5 million annually from our entry fee, some of which we have to put into our maintenance backlog, but some of which we can put into visitor services.
but not a specific commitment to that at this point.
It's on the list of eligible projects we should fund.
Yeah, so Mike, right now, we don't have, and we don't have the, we have some retail that we're doing that is outside of the space that Eastern National has, so that will be forthcoming in the future. We've got to work out all those details. We have a new lease that has to be renegotiated. So all of those things, we're hoping we're going to be changing the future with, so we don't have that currently.
Yeah, we have some things to talk about on the trail too, with maintenance and some other things that we haven't gotten worked out yet either, that we probably need to sit down and talk through to see what the whole impact's gonna be for the whole enchilada, right? So,
And so in those renegotiations, Jeff, we have to discuss the fact that they weren't paying enough for operations and they weren't paying enough for the long-term capital. That's going to change drastically. So I've told Paul he's going to have to know that.
forward.
Yes, because we are going to make it right.
Okay. Any other comments? Quick. Thank you, Lorelei.
Great, thank you,
And team.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Next up, Pleasant Township trustee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a national park service, but we own the building, but they helped get the federal grant, and then they had a general services agreement.
Is that a charge to get into the
Just started that, started charging.
there should be some sort of assurance that somehow.
Good evening. My name is Carol Van Dyke, and I am the trustee for Pleasant Township in Porter County. First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing us to present our proposal to you. We are honored that you are taking the time to listen to us. If you would follow along with the packet of information you have, this will help you understand our presentation. I do want to apologize for my voice. I'm battling a cold, but rest assured it's not COVID. Before I go into our presentation, I would just like to clear up some misconceptions. I did watch the YouTube meeting where we were brought up during it, and we are coming to you from Pleasant Township-owned swimming pool. The funds to operate the pool are strictly from the township. It is fully owned by the township and not the town of Couts, and that is always kind of a confusing thing. The town of Couts recently received their funding that will be over $430,000 in COVID relief. That is none of ours. That is the town of Couts. It's a separate entity, and none of those funds are for Pleasant Township. So we are hoping to receive $12,000 that we were told, and hopefully that would cover either the increase in cost for our grounds maintenance for our cemeteries, or better yet, those who need assistance in our township. So I just wanted to clear up that confusion. So now on to our proposal. We are asking for funds to replace our concrete that surrounds our township pool. For those of you who are not familiar with Pleasant Township Pool, On the front page of your handout, I have a map there. We are located on the outskirts of the town of Couts in southern Porter County. I don't know if you drive much past south of Route 30, but we are down there, and the pool itself sits on 2 acres, and it's inside a recreational area that measures 10 acres. The pool was built in 1972, and it can accommodate up to 422 visitors a day. This year, we will be celebrating our 50th year at the pool. As I stated earlier, the pool is operated and maintained by Pleasant Township. As the trustee, the summer of 2019 was my first term in office and also my first season to operate the pool. I gathered volunteers with our limited funds, many hours of sweat and volunteers funding. We worked hard to transform this venue in what people call the best-kept secret of Porter County after visiting us. On page 1, you'll notice I have our attendance that has increased since I took office. The first year of COVID, we saw an increase of 40% in attendance and added to the 20% from the year before. Our attendance increased again last year. We have no doubt that this trend will continue as long as we keep this pool in great shape and continue to have activities that draw people in from all over the county and surrounding areas as well. You can see the breakdown of who's using the pool in the middle section of that page. Throughout the whole COVID pandemic, we were thankful to be able to stay open. During a time of uncertainty and isolation, we actually had a record year in attendance, as stated earlier. We were able to create jobs, create a safe environment, allow human interaction at a time when people were working remotely, and see families come together and enjoy being with one another. We kept in contact with the state of Indiana daily to follow all the COVID rules to be able to stay open. We even had a family come from southern Indiana. They actually came to Valparaiso. They spent the week in a hotel, and they used the pool every day as their vacation that summer. It was one of the few, if not only, pools that they could find open, and they loved their experience. Many people also commented how this was a much-needed distraction for their family and so glad they could get out for their mental state and enjoy the sun and warmth. Our pool is very reasonably priced. For $185 a family, you can have a membership for the whole summer. Daily interest is $5, and even cheaper if you buy a punch card. It truly is the most affordable attraction in our area. It is open to the public, and everyone, no matter where you live, is allowed to use the facilities. Throughout the pandemic, we had no recorded positive COVID cases from the pool. And if you could look where the COVID impact is on that page 1 in the bottom. The biggest need for our pool would be replacing the concrete surrounding the pool. The pool itself is in great shape, along with the pump and filtering system. Aquafection is the company that has serviced the pool since 1972 when it started. His son now, Garrett Kostick, is the owner and operator. He's been coming to the pool ever since he was a kid. He regularly compliments us on the upgrades we have made and always says what a great asset this is for our community. Garrett agrees with us that the concrete replacement would be a great way to improve the pool for the safety of patrons, as well as the endurance to keep the pool lasting a long time. In Garrett's words, he says, "You don't know what a gem you have here, and I service several pools in Illinois and Indiana. You have taken great care of this pool and done so many upgrades in the past few years. There's no reason that you can't keep this going for a long, long time. This pool is in primo shape." So if you would look at our operating budget, try and get out of my road. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself for 1 minute here, but if you look at the activities, I'm sorry, on page 2, sorry. You'll see many activities that we hold at the pool, page 2 and 3. On page 2, we have several different, I won't go through all of them, but you can see water aerobic classes, swimming lessons. Just to let you know that our swimming lessons have, every year when we open it up for registration, we sell out. And we can no longer, we have to turn people away. We service between 80 and 90 kids doing the swimming lessons. Every year, everything has gone up in the amount of people that attend as well. The fire department training, they come every year and they train for what they need to train for, as well as using our lifeguards as well. Sorry, I'm losing my... On the page 3, you'll see just a picture of some of the activities that we have and just how it's used. And then we can move to our upgrades. So I said before that the funds that we were asking for would repair the concrete surrounding the pool. There are 9,980 square feet of concrete to be replaced. And after gathering the concrete bids, the average cost of this project would be $120,000. While the concrete is being removed, Garrett also suggested replacing some of the drain pipe, since they would be exposed at this time anyway. Not that we see any problems with that, but it would be a good time to do it and cost-effective. So he thought an estimate of $30,000 would cover that at no problem. So originally, we had asked for between $150,000 and $300,000 to do this project. Tonight, we are asking for $150,000. We have been responsible and for the funds in our budget. We have been responsible and have been good stewards of our tax dollars, but this is just out of our price range. And you can see the breakdown on our funds as you go on. We have the upgrades, I'm sorry, not the upgrades, the before and after pictures. You can see what we've done in the past 3 years. And this would be a huge benefit as well as a practical need, and not just for looks, but more importantly, safety. The pool is not only services Pleasant Township, but it also benefits Porter County. Couts is a growing community, and we see this pool to get more use every year. When evaluating on how to spend these funds, I would encourage you not to forget the areas of Porter County that maybe sometimes get overlooked with some of the bigger cities like Valparaiso, Portage, or Chesterton. COVID has affected everyone, and we want to interact with a safe environment. The pool was originally started, which I found this interesting, obviously 50 years ago, but I guess there were some children who drowned in a pond, swimming in a pond in the rivers, and a group of people decided that we needed to teach these children how to swim. And this would be a, thank you, lifelong benefit to people. We also find value in continuing our educational and recreational programs at the school, at pool, and this is especially important as the other areas have shut down. Keeping people socially and physically active is so important, especially during a pandemic. And we don't know what the future holds, but this is one shining gem in our community that can foster those things that we lost during the pandemic. So there are some more photos in there, and some of them are just showing the excitement and the fun that people are having at our pool. I've also included some testimonials that I will not read, but I would encourage you to read them and look at them. The last testimonial really says it all about what the Pleasant Township pool is all about. And this is from the daughter of one of the founding fathers who built the pool. And it's just been such a pleasure, along with my staff, to see the joy that the Pleasant Township pool brings to people of all ages and from all backgrounds. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time and to consider this proposal for us.
You made it.
Yeah, I know.
Good job.
I haven't had a cold in years.
Been going around a little bit.
So when would you plan on getting this work done?
Well, yesterday would have been great, but as soon as we can. We've already have bids, and we've got several people who we can call upon to do the work. We would have, do bids for it, but we have an approximate amount. Obviously, we can't do it in the middle of our summer, so I'm assuming because we are already starting to get things ready there, it would be the fall, if we would get them that soon. Otherwise, obviously not in the middle of winter, but spring and fall.
You mentioned your daily attendance. I missed the number. How many roughly a day?
Roughly, we would average, I didn't take into the account all the extra activities where people would attend, just the daily swimming. We average probably 50 to 75 a day, and obviously that's taken into consideration. You have down days of cold, rain, but.
And your season is probably what, Memorial Day to Labor Day type of situation?
Exactly. And I would encourage you to come look at the pool. I think it's amazing.
I'm gonna plead the fifth here. You're talking to one of those kids that grew up going there every summer. I graduated in 1979, and so for me, my mother couldn't wait to drop her 4 kids off there.
Squealed her tires.
She was burning out of there, and then she was always late coming back. Always.
We do, with the inexpensive prices that we charge, I mean, really, it's cheaper than finding a babysitter.
Alls I can say for me, it was a lot of great memories, And the one thing I do want to sort of say this, I'm a little disappointed in the town of Couts to at least give a little something, because this is part of Couts. This is in the city, or town, but it's part of it, and it serves a lot of towners, too.
Correct.
And so I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody,
Right.
but we're here too, and
We feel that too. We would love for them, I mean, we kind of said, what are you going to do with all that money? And
I'm not trying to call anybody out here.
Right,
To me, it's all about collaboration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about trying to work together and to come up with a common
And I think
goal.
we are building bridges, but it's not too soon that it's going to happen, but
Yeah.
but that is.
Looking forward to those conversations.
Yes. But we are frustrated with that as well. And
Have the decisions been made relating to how they plan on spending their $430,000?
they haven't told us.
And did you, through the township assistance at the county, through our initial offering, did Pleasant Township receive money?
We haven't yet. I thought I saw where we're getting 12,000.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not sure the
it was
amount specifically.
$500,000 that was
And then
based
it was
on
based on
population.
population. So ours was 12,000,
Okay.
which,
You say that
That's
is,
low.
yes.
Your
we-
population's that low.
Population's low.
Well,
as
I guess I
compared
could,
to that.
just need a calculator.
I think it's, I want to say with the township, between 44,500.
Is it safe to say that whatever that amount is that has been given to the township through the county, is that the top priority, and that's where whatever that amount is, that's going to the pool?
No, that is not going to the pool.
I believe, Mike, and I wish Madam Auditor was here, but we've had a conversation, is the funds that the county gave out in the initial offering to the townships was $500,000. It had restrictions on it.
Yeah, it will be
It was
for assistance.
For assistance, right. So
Yeah.
that, they could only use that money for assistance.
Right.
Public assistance.
And we are probably, as far as I know, I don't know of any other township-owned pool in Indiana.
No, there's,
So we are a unique, and it's not a business. And as you can see on our numbers of what we take in, and but boy, does it bring joy to people.
Yeah,
I mean,
I believe it does, yeah.
50 years later, still doing it.
50, we're
right?
doing a huge 50th anniversary, so.
I'm not going to say
I know.
anymore. It was a good time for me. Any other questions from the group?
Just for clarity here, you have your total year budget of 164,000, but you,
Right.
in the bottom, you have your receipts as 45 to 55. So are you telling, is $100,000 deficit on a yearly basis? Is that what?
Well, that, we get tax money, obviously, in our budget, but we never get enough to cover the budgeted amount, so we rely on our funds that we receive from the pool.
The trustee is sort of a weird deal
Yeah.
because they get money, but it's very restricted.
Right.
And to have a pool
Which
in a
no
trustee
other-
things, it
yeah.
pools public assistance in cemeteries,
Right,
right? That's
right, that's.
pretty much it.
Right,
Yeah.
sure.
And so to have a pool, you know,
It's
in
unheard of.
town, it's a benefit. And so, but again, it's the typical state government, county government meat grinder trying to make it work for the people in the local community. And sometimes those things, they just don't add up.
Right.
And that's where you have to be creative, right?
Right. And-
So that's the problem with the trust, you know, the townships is and fire.
Yep.
And fire.
Right,
I'm
fire,
sorry,
right.
That's a big one.
Which we share with our town, the
Right.
fire, which,
So they're very handcuffed in what they can do. So I'm not trying to advocate for them. I'm just trying to tell you what the lay of the land is out there when it comes to trustees. So very limited
Right.
in what you can do.
but we have really, in the 3 years, have done amazing things with that pool. And the pictures probably don't even do justice, but it's an awesome place to go. And it's reasonable for anyone.
And in a smaller community, it's a wonderful gathering,
Right.
community place.
And we get a lot from Valpo.
I can
and,
imagine what it would be like without it, frankly, I'm sure.
Right.
You should take your grandkids there
That's
this
right.
summer. I'm telling
Yes.
you, they're gonna have a blast.
Our swimming lessons are already full, I'm sorry, but,
They already know it. So, and just to make sure, and I want to make sure I'm correct, so the actual specific request as of tonight is the 150.
correct.
And I just like to say, I appreciate the fact that the initial request is 150 to 300, but you've looked at it.
Didn't know at that time exactly, and so that's what we thought, and we were pleasantly happy when,
Pleasant.
yes, pleasantly, when it came in at that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, thank you.
So we put a lot of free, hard work into it, too. I have a great group of people volunteer.
I remember when you were doing the refurbishment, because I was following on Facebook.
Okay,
You
sure.
had quite an army out there.
Yes, yes.
Really good to see the community come together and help out. Good. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, VLACD, Valpo Area Lakes Conservancy District.
How do you have any particular project?
Oh, that's cool, I mean, Union Township,
Nobody yelling at you.
that's right.
I sent these along with the application.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Minrich. I'm the general manager for the Valparaiso Lakes Area Conservancy District. This is Mickey Kohler. He is the chairman of our board. I have 3 other board members in attendance. A lot of people don't even know who we are. Just a little conservancy district. We were formed in '83. I'll give you a quick rundown on this. We were formed in '83 for purchasing a bankrupt water company. Citizens got together, got the money, bought it, and we've rebuilt that water system since then. Same with sewers. It was all septic out there going into the lakes. People got together and we got some grants and we built the sewer system. Now we're turning our focus over to stormwater and a little bit more on the water system side. First one I want to talk about is Kettle Lake. This is my 3rd visit to this chamber on Kettle Lake. Basically, what you got there is a glacial depression with no way for the water to outlet out from this hole, lack of a better term. There was a farmer must have put in some field tile years ago and drained it into this depression. Now, when the depression fills up with a 2-inch rain,
it flows backwards and out. The district in 2000 built a 24-inch storm sewer and ran it towards Kettle Lake as far as they could till they ran out of gravity slope. The bottom of the lake, Kettle Lake, is 1 foot above Flint Lake. So drainage is just not going to happen very well.
What district?
South Black Hawk Beach.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, South Burlington Beach. So the 24-inch, they had to run flat, so it doesn't have much pressure to push water through it. So they started a study. We got Rich Hudson's firm over here to put a study together for us and a design. We used Haas out of Michigan City to come up with a design. We've used JPR out of South Bend to come up with a design. And now we went back to Adam McAlpine, and he came up with this study that you've got there in your hands. You can see some of the flooding that occurs there, and I've seen it firsthand many times. I've seen cars completely underwater in the backyards. There are 9 homes that butt up against this depression. Some of the homes flood, some have sheds that flood, some have garages that flood, and we've tried many different theories as to how to get rid of this water. We've looked at pumps, we've considered pour-bay system, and replacing that farmer's tile that runs through a lot of private property. Adam has come up with 3 parts on page 14 of that, I believe it is, with the dollar amounts. One is a 24-inch down Robin Road, another 24-inch down Oriole Road, connecting all this into where it bumps into Listenberger Ditch. The third part of that project is also to grade these backyards so that it will capture the water better and not flood the homes so bad. I don't believe this is going to completely cure the problem, but we'll get rid of that water a lot faster and get it out into Flint Lake sooner, hopefully a lot cleaner in the process. The 9 homes that will improve the quality of life for them. Also, there's another 100 homes, there's 133 in South Burlington Beach, 133 homes. 100 of them will be impacted by this drainage project. And that's probably, if you use the state code, 2.7 per house, so 270 people. This will help with standing water issues, mosquitoes, and mold problems that some of the houses have because it's always so damp on their property. It'll also improve property values and tax revenues. I got lost here in my thoughts here. Years ago, as part of trying to get rid of this water, the county and us worked together. We purchased the pipe, and the county highway department came in and installed a small diameter system, I think 6-inch.
When was that?
About 2000. No, 2004. It was 2004. That was when I first started.
18 years ago, okay.
Yes. And that was to help drain Sumac Road. Now, the problem with capturing that water faster, it went into Kettle Lake. So now we just computed or added more problems to those folks around the Kettle. Want me to keep speeding it up a little bit? All right. So I talked to Adam last night. He was over on a separate project, and his initial cost was $470,000 or something. He said, no, it's now $560 if you throw in engineering, survey work, and various other aspects of legal work, that sort of thing. So we're looking at $560,000 to get rid of this problem. Well, we even did soil sampling. We put a lot of money into it with all these designs, studies, soil samples, engineering. We do have a little bit of a dog in this fight. And you probably can go through there and see what you want to see out of that pamphlet that Adam put together. And other than that, I'm pretty much, that's it in a nutshell.
They have 3 projects, so if we want to go ahead and question them on this one, then we'll move to the next one, and then the next one. So let's go ahead and shoot on this one right now.
Sure, absolutely.
So, looking through this, looks like you got this done in December, in that you have some easements that you still have to acquire. How
Right.
far, where are you at on those right now?
We haven't moved at all on the easements yet.
Okay. How long does something like that typically take?
Depends on the...
It depends on the person you're trying to get the easement from.
Could take a while.
It could.
Out there, I'm guessing it will.
Well, I think the people would be so grateful to get rid of this doggone pond. They're going to be... We had a lady there who, a gentleman, I should say, when we first started this way back, absolutely opposed to us doing anything on his property. And that would have been the shortcut. We could have got away with it. We considered condemning the property and going that way on it, but the district has never condemned, to the best of my knowledge, anything. I was in the neighborhood talking to another customer, and I saw her, and I went over and talked to the man's wife, and she said, well, my husband's passed away, and yes, you can have an easement. Bada boom. So that started this process again with Adam.
Okay.
Just to let everybody know here, a conservancy district, like they are, is charged with their own responsibility. They become their own political subdivision, right? And in that political subdivision, what they are charged to do is water, sewer, sanitary, and stormwater. So all of this is within their district, and they have a revenue source that they charge their people to perform those services, just those services, and some roads. They have some roads in there too. So it's a little different, and it's for our public people that are sitting up here, I'm trying to educate them as we go here so they know what's going on.
Right.
But conservancy, this is a conservancy district. So my question would be, usually in these type of projects up here, if I was to consider anything outside the norm of our stormwater district.
Yes, sir.
Because this is ARP, and I know it's different money, but our district for stormwater is not allowed to go into the LACD. We're really not allowed to go into any conservancy district that's performing whatever they're performing, because they're their own unit.
Right.
They have their own board. I think I think it was part of our guidelines, I believe, to where, we'd like to see some match on these projects. I don't like to get into buying people's engineering and that type of thing, because with that comes accountability.
Right.
So who's ever going to engineer that solution needs to make sure that, it's all one person. And I think that there's some responsibility and liability there that I think needs to happen here. And then I would defer my last question to our county engineer. How much of this watershed is unincorporated Porter County? Or is this just within the district? I really don't know. I notice it doesn't really talk about that in there.
I believe, Jeff, that the drainage area, the watershed for Kettle Lake lies completely within the boundaries of the LACD,
Okay.
I believe.
So to be clear, the water we're talking about is the water within that district. It's not any of our water. Okay? Just because we're looking at watersheds here. That's what you got to do. So I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, and maybe to throw a little perspective on it, just from a financial standpoint, what is the fee that the people that you work for are charged?
Currently, nothing. We do not have an MS4 fee.
We have a budget, it's like $325,000. Of that, we also have a CCIF, another fund. Those are the funds that we use as far as doing these different projects. So those are the kind of fees. We just applied for an Okra grant, and that's one of the things they used as far as the stormwater fee. They used our CCIF, our Cumulative Improvement Fund, as far as looking at that as far as a fee. We only make like $30,000 a year with that fee. We're looking to increase that fee as we move forward. We also talked to Mike about a partnership between collaboration, I guess I heard from the last meeting, between us and the VLASCD about trying to move forward. He asked us to do a stormwater master plan. We are in the process of doing that as far as trying to work with the county as we move forward. As Bob said, we have not worked very much on stormwater. This is my second year as the chairman of the board. I have made that as more of a highlight as far as what we do going forward. We've worked on water and sewer most of the time. We do have separate fees for those things that each individual homeowner pays, storm for the sewer and for the water. And those are all separate fees, but then we have a budget. Like I told you, $325,000. Of that $325,000, only $125,000 is really available for us to move forward with any of these kind of projects, contractual people that we hire, engineers, everything else like that. So we don't really have a lot of money as far as going forward and trying to do some of these projects. You're going to hear about the other two projects we're trying to do. So and to let you know, we also play the river basin just like you guys do. We have to pay $8,700 to that every year, just like you guys are paying $200,000. We are paying $8,700.
But it doesn't sound to me like you're charging yourself enough to take care of your pipes and your underground that's already in the ground and it's been aging.
Now, we're bumping that up about 50,000.
Well, but now.
Yeah.
Now you are.
We just found out we could.
Yeah, well, just for, when we started the stormwater management program for Porter County, we went to all the conservancy districts and we asked if you wanted to opt in, and you guys said no.
Right.
Because we didn't know what we were doing. And now 5 years later, we're back. And we have all these issues we need fixed. And just from my perspective, being up here as the head of the Stormwater Board, doing a ton of, we went into South Haven and cleaned that up because that was a conservancy district. And they weren't charging themselves enough. And all of a sudden, the reason we were into that was because the pipe that was failing under the road was a conservancy district, but the county had the roads. So the roads, as they were sinkholes falling in all over the place, and it was terrible up there.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible, worst
I've heard the
conditions you
stories.
could ever see. And that conservancy district finally yielded and said, uncle, but after we went out and the reason I'm telling this story is not to na-na-na-ya, is that after we made that decision and we went out to everybody and said, okay, first pass, you're all in free, come on in now. If you're gonna do it, now's the time to do it. Everybody said no. When you all said no, we started bonding, we started doing other things that to bring other outside units in now, that's gonna cause some problems with our financials and the cost difference between what it would take to get your people up to speed and everything, and there's gonna be a cost to that.
Right.
A big cost. And so I just want people to know sort of how we got here. It is looking back, but it's also looking forward. And I think, people now know that we're real up here and we're serious and we have excellent people here that know what they're doing. And, it's just how we're going to work through these issues.
Right.
I've been involved in all three of your Okra grant attempts because the president of the Board of Commissioners has to be on the call, I have to be on this, and I've done those for 3 years, and we got you that $1 million. So
We didn't get $1 million.
well, whatever you got it's close to that.
272.
Okay, for the Okra?
Yes.
Okay.
We were
So
Weren't you asking for-
That would be another project.
that's, yeah. So I'll be on that call too. But the Okra grants are hard to get.
Yes.
Very hard to get. It was our fourth try or third try?
Third
Yeah,
try.
so they're hard to get.
So for comparison purposes, of course, everyone else in the county that's part of the stormwater management for the county pays $10 per month, so $120 per year. How does that compare to your residents?
We don't charge a MS4 fee.
So there's no stormwater fee?
We're talking about it to generate more income for these projects, right?
We already know what the projects are at this point, like we are going through the master plan right now to understand what the projects
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
How deep we have to go.
Yeah,
My-
right.
I had a question.
Sure.
Did you say that this project here would not really solve the problem completely?
Not 100%, because, because the pipe is so flat going out to Flint Lake, there isn't much push with the water. And actually, Listenberger Ditch has to drain down a little bit before this can come in. So it's an improvement, a massive improvement, but it's not the cure-all.
Probably not going to get you 100 year, right?
Right. Or 200 years
Yeah.
they're talking about now.
Yeah.
Bob, you mentioned, were 8 properties involved in? 9 properties involved.
In a bowl.
In the bowl. That would be involved with this, right, involved with this project, the improvements that are
Yes.
proposed. Great question about the easements, so I understand that process hasn't started. In the previous iterations of the study, I'm just wondering if, things like voluntary buyouts have been something that, have been considered.
We discussed that a few years back, that we would buy the property. It would have been cheaper for us to buy the properties out than to actually put in a four-base system and just let the area flood, tear the houses down and let it flood.
Right.
That was $1 million project.
Okay.
Now, buying the homes, I thought $750,000, so there was initial savings there.
Yeah, and to get to Sylvia's point, in terms of evaluating options, spending the 560K ask versus what it might take to buy those properties out, that still they might not flood as much or as bad, but maybe you completely alleviate the problem. I just wonder if that's been, sort of fully vetted in evaluating the options here, because.
Sort of like what we did in Wheeler.
Similar to what we did, exact same thing that we did in Wheeler.
Yep.
The plan that came from Adam, and he came up with these proposals.
Sure.
And he looked at a lot of different options out there, and that's what he finally came up with, and the board chose that.
Am I right in saying that, I mean, this has been a long-standing problem?
It's glacial.
So.
That's going way, way back.
I understand. So my question is, and it looks like the reports that were just most recently done were done at the end of last year.
Right.
Are those similar or much different than, I assume there were reports from before and recommendations from before?
Yes, they are
That
different.
should have been done?
Yeah, they were different. One was to take the pipe straight through the lady's backyard. And that was designed out and everything, but the husband said no, and we weren't going to fight him over it. The other ones was like a pump, like they'd used over in, what's that subdivision? There's a subdivision over here on the other side of 6. Put in some pumps to alleviate the water problems there. And the other issue was a four-base system and try and clean the water as well.
Slow it down.
Slow it down, right. We've looked at a lot of different things and paid a lot of engineers.
Well, and what for this board, when we use it, put ourselves in the applicant's
Right.
position for a moment, when we undertake a study and a project, we want to make sure that it solves the problem, because the last thing you want to do is put that money, towards a solution that doesn't get you quite where you want to be. So
That's my concern here on the engineering, because this is tricky stuff in there.
yes.
This is not an easy, oh, you gotta go do some pipe in a subdivision. It's different out there,
And,
very terrainy.
to play the PR, like from VLACD's perspective, it's not going to help to have those same residents be angry at you in the future. So I'm not saying that this proposal won't necessarily work,
Right.
but there's some indication that it might not get you all the way where you need to be to protect these homes
It's not
from flooding,
1,000%,
right?
no. Yeah.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that everybody knew that.
Appreciate that, Bob.
We can move to the next one here if you want.
Okay, let's do Black Hawk
Black
Beach,
Hawk,
since
is
we
that what you
talked
want?
about Okra already.
Yep.
Thanks, Mickey. Yeah, with the county's help, we did get funding through Okra of $272,000. We're matching $60,000 out of our own funds and throwing that into this project. That's the Cardinal.
That's the wrong one.
That's the wrong one.
We'll hold that.
How much did you get matching?
you say?
272 from Okra and we're matching 60. Now, going back into the early 1900s, that's how far back Black Hawk Beach
Thank you, sir.
is. It used to be a tourist attraction. What you have is public roads privately maintained. We do not have any roads of our own.
That's right, they're private.
Private roads.
Private roads.
Therein lies the problem.
Yep, that's always a fun one. Most are impassable to fire trucks, police, ambulances, and so on, any emergency vehicles. There are a few storm sewers in that area, but they are undersized. And during this last major storm we had, that whole hillside on Black Hawk Beach slipped into Flint Lake. So the citizens over there have been working on it, the freeholders, trying to stabilize that bank again. And part of that is in the Okra grant that we're getting that'll take care of that, we're hoping. Standing water is common. Since the right-of-ways are so narrow, it really takes away the use of curbs and gutters. Have to be a little more creative. So we're going with pervious pavement and pavers in some certain areas. And we're still listening to the engineers during the stormwater thing, different ways they want to do it. Some want to do a concave setup with the pavers in the middle to catch the water. Others want to take it to the outside. There's good points, bad points, and also the massive amount of maintenance that permeable paving creates. We're a small district. I got 3 guys.
What's your water table in there?
In Black Hawk Beach, it's very high. I'm trying to think how tall the bluff is right there. Probably 30 feet before you hit the lake. But the water table can be, I put in water main and a few storm sewers in that area, and we really weren't in the water at 5 foot.
Okay.
5 to 6 foot. I didn't go any deeper.
So you don't have any under drain issues on these?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The engineers are talking about using 20 inches of gravel underneath the roads when they do put them in there.
French drain.
Yeah, French drain, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
We did the pervious underground storage. District has paid for preliminary, well, you've got it in your hands, preliminary engineering by an Ontario group. And district has also replaced a failing storm sewer down Sumac Lane and regraded that road. So, I mean, we've put quite a bit of effort in trying to drain that area as best we can. Now, in this particular case, there is 101 homes in the Black Hawk Beach, so there's 273 customers. Our citizens, I should say, to give you some idea of the amount and scope of this. With the $332,000 that's going to go into this phase 1, that's going to leave us 4 areas that are not going to get services because Okra, you can only get Okra funds for stormwater once every 5 years. So we're going to have a lot of citizens that are not going to get any sort of service out of this money, except they might have a little better road to drive on to get out of that place. So that's why we're back here saying, would you consider funding the rest of it so we can get this project done and out of the way? And that'd be another $952,000. That's pretty it in a nutshell. You can see the breakdown by the zones on those maps.
We are getting $60,000 towards this project as far as matching the OPA funds. We do have funds in the rainy day of $140,000, and we have a CCIF, also has funds as far as you're concerned with matching funds. We do have those available as far as being able to do this project.
Have you guys looked at bonding capabilities? I mean, if you raise your fees, you can start bonding, and I know that's what we did to get out of the South Haven mess we were in right off the bat. So I'm just thinking, your whole taxing part of this thing, or your fee part of this thing, is sort of really integral as to where you guys are today.
We're applying for both Kettle Lake and Black Hawk Beach, the next project, with SRF funds. We're going to see where that goes. And once you get in on the SRF, then you automatically get in on the SWIFT funds as well. So we're trying every door we can think of to generate funds for these projects.
And I don't think you have the, I don't know what it's called, like we have in South Haven. What is that called? The area, depressed area, or what?
Low to moderate income?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have that in there?
In the Black Hawk Beach,
Area,
that's
okay.
how it qualified.
Okay.
It was 55% was low to moderate income.
Any more questions from the board? Mike?
I was going to say, the work, so just because, I want to make sure I understand this. It's not pipes here in a sense, it is you are looking to take out the roads and replace them with something that's pervious that the water.
Only if we can use it to store water or channel water away.
Okay. And and the pink is what you've ordered, is what.
The pink is county roads.
County roads.
Oh, gotcha, okay. Thank you.
Mickey, real quick, those numbers you read, there's 60K that you had available for match right now?
This project for the Okra, yes, we're
Yeah.
going to have 60,000 available for that, yes.
Okay.
And for everybody in there on your maps, the private roads are private, so it's up to the individuals on that street to come up and pull the money together to go pay, stone or grade or whatever, snow plow, all that.
Maintenance.
Through the years, we have offered to the citizens that if they bought the gravel, we would take it out of our supply and spread it for them.
Yeah, you guys got some equipment up there.
Mhm.
Yep.
So we've done that many times.
We get a lot of calls up here for people wanting us to go in there and stone them.
We won't go on private property, though. It's got to be.
We can't.
Yeah, we're not going to.
They're private roads. Private is private.
Right.
That's what the word means. So, but yeah, I just want, it's an active area. Okay, next up, I guess, any more questions on Black Hawk Beach?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
You're up to here. Yeah. Okay, this is the Cardinal Lane Water Main Project. This is part 3 of 3 phases. First one tied Walden into Clausen Road. That was an 8-inch that we bored in through there. The second one was from Clausen to Cardinal Lane, which was just completed not too long ago. And we're getting ready for the third one. The only holdup right now is Mr. Attorney Hornbeck to get the final temporary easements so we can put new services in along with the water main. I forgot what I didn't get a sheet, but you can see in the red the top 2 dollar amounts. Let me see that real quick.
151 and 139?
Yes, those have been paid for by us, taken care of out of our rate structure. The engineer, everything is done with those. We're getting ready to complete the third one. You'll see in the black and white sheet, did you hand out a black and white one?
Yes.
Didn't I?
Yeah.
Right there. I contacted our engineer to get an update on the cost of number 3 because that price there is quite a few years back. And it didn't go up that much, it only went up to 260 something. So that's what we're looking for, and the reason behind this, it's been an interesting project as we have done the first 2 of our 4 water vaults that we buy water from the city, 3 stopped functioning. And all the water's coming through one vault now, unless there's a massive draw for some reason, then the other vaults will kick back in as backup.
Is that an 8-inch vault, or 8-inch line in the vault, or?
6, mainly 6s, but we have 12 8-inch mains all over the district. And what has happened is the water tower over there off of Burlington Beach and, not 149, what is that? No, not the Calumet one, on the other side, west. Can't think of the name. Anyway, there's a water tower. Campbell, that's it, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Duh.
That tower, that tower oversupplies all the other vaults by 1 PSI. They will not run. Those other ones will not run. And with my replacement coming around the bend, he's going to have to figure out what he wants to do with those extra vaults. If he wants to continue to pay his city minimum charges for nothing. Anyway, this will, if we get this third one in, it's going to improve the quality and quantity of water available from Walden all the way to Ridgewood Creek, down Cardinal. It's also going to help on the North Burlington Beach subdivision as we created another, looped in several smaller lines as well. So everybody is not dependent upon one feed for their water. Let's see, Attorney Hollenbeck, Phase 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, with the 4 intakes, pardon me? Fire hydrants, there's going to be 3 additional fire hydrants, yeah, that's item number 2. 3 additional fire hydrants where there are not any now for those residents. Sometime years before I started, they decided to put a new main down Cardinal and they put in a 4-inch. Well, you can't not put a fire hydrant on a 4-inch water main. The general manager at that time, the general manager at that time asked the maintenance guy, says, "Why'd you run a 4? You're the general manager, why'd you let him?" Anyway, that's basically it. I can tell you the number of people. There are 18 homes that'll be directly connected to this on Cardinal, so that's 49 people, plus 2 subdivisions. So by the time you're done with all of that, it's going to be around 489 people that are going to be affected by this final phase.
Now, these are people that are on water or on
They are,
well?
this is a replacement.
So it's replacement?
Yes.
You're not adding any new, okay.
No new customers.
I didn't know if we had some well people out there or something you're trying to hook up. Okay.
We have some, but not too many.
Yeah.
So the third request is not 340, it's 247, am I getting that right?
248, it's 246.
950, it's this number right here,
Yes. Black and white.
the black and white one, yep.
I got that today.
Yep. Refresh. I don't think I have any more questions. Does anybody else of these folks?
This one was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was pretty, okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for
We're going to move on here.
listening and considering.
Yep. We have 2 more here yet, and then we'll be done for the evening. So we're going to move through these here. Next up, we have the Isaac Walton League.
I'll tell you what, the strings attached.
That's a good start, I think.
Everybody else is paying $10 a month. That's what That's not.
And we all know what happened.
Yeah. Well, that's how you pay for it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, she already gave me one. She did.
And whether it's outright or bonding capabilities or whatever.
Hi. Porter County, Isaac Walton. And the president, Gary Brown. This is our executive director.
I'm Annette Hansen. They hired me 6 years ago. I'm one of those believers who makes $15 an hour, Carrie mentioned earlier.
She only charges us half.
Yeah.
She's the only paid
When I
employee.
came to Porter County chapter, I found a group of conservationists and scientists, activists, and educators. I myself am a K through 8th grade teacher and working at Discovery Charter School. I run a 4-H group, lots of things with kids. So I was excited that they were working in the realm of youth conservation education and doing practical projects on the ground for the sake of natural health. I came on as a fundraiser, written grants with the Indiana Arts Commission and NIPSCO we've been very lucky to get. We do a lot of community programming with emphasis on youth events. We do family nature nights across Porter County. And I run an eSTEM program that brings 5th and 6th graders out to the properties to learn water quality testing, and lots of citizen science. So Isaac Walton Porter County chapter was actually established in 1958 and has been advocating for the Indiana dunes and for soil, air, woods, water, and wildlife, which we all enjoy and depend on. We would not only work in Porter County, but across the state and the nation as the League. We are an IRS Section 501c3 non-for-profit organization, and we own 6 properties in Porter County for conservation purposes that are bound with conservation easements with the Indiana DNR and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Every property we own is restored to native vegetation and protected from development with stormwater retention and water quality benefits. Our chapter is in the process of restoring water retention spaces, prairie, and woods, which we use for educational programs such as monarch, bird, and bat education, water quality testing and training, and pollinator habitat preservation. We maintain stewardship, entertain hundreds of people every year throughout with these programs and on-the-ground experiences, and have developed great community relationships. So the projects that we currently are working on and the properties that we are holding at the Frame Family Little Calumet Conservation Area, we've been working with restoration for natural water storage areas and installed a water flow control device there. It's been working out very nicely. Beaton Cop Spring Run, this is one of the properties that we'll be talking about in our project as well. The water storage there helps protect County Road 575 East. And within the project, I'll mention also that this is the space where there's a future easement in that northeast corner of the property with the Pagels for future water storage connection as well. Our Masaga Conservation Areas manage wet woods and holds water on the site that keeps County Road 1100 North and County Line Road also dry, or as dry as possible. Carroll Cook Overlook is a connecting property at 584 to the project on Burdick. It's nature recreation area, has walkways and platforms and water retention edge as well. All these locations become educational opportunities at the same time. So the project that we come before you to ask for $700,000 to expand existing services and programs by the Porter County chapter of the Isaac Walton League. This particular project includes the purchase of just less than 40 acres from James Ferris at 580 Burdick Road in Westville. The project joins Porter County Chapter's Carroll Cook Overlook and the Beaton Cop Springs properties for the benefit of flood control on just over 80 combined acres. It also connects the water storage component in the easement at Pagel's adjoining property. Mr. Pagel has already agreed to give us easement on that, so we can include it. The budget. We are estimating that the value of the property is about $8,000 an acre, and at just under 40 acres, we would be looking at about $350,000 in real estate. Now, the mitigation structure, in 2018, Jim Ferris had the NRCS come in and do engineering on that property, and it was just under $115,000. If we were to do this project today, we are estimating that we would need about $15,000 more, so it's about $130,000 in the actual structure itself. Other engineering, et cetera. Also to do some work at Pagels, if that were included, would take, and services for administration, organization, would take us to that grand total of $700,000. Because, oh,
Excuse, you have a
Yeah.
30% administration charge in here?
I do. Do you feel that's too high?
I just don't understand anybody coming here asking for money, why they would want to put an administrative fee on there, but.
We were told by the county auditor that we should take a higher estimate based on the unknowns and.
So you're just putting that in there as a sloppy kind of pickup, you should have put contingency maybe or something.
We have
I
a
don't know.
contingency, we have a
Oh,
contingency
you have
at
a
the bottom, too.
contingency too? Okay,
Yes,
so we have a
yes.
fee and a contingency.
Yes, because we have found that working with governmental agencies takes a lot of coordination.
Yeah, but you're also coming here and asking for money too,
Yes,
so just, okay,
yes, we're going high and hope to come in low.
yeah, gotcha.
Because we get off on education, the water retention workshop, it's true, we do.
Yeah.
We live for it. We'd like to partner with the Stormwater Board for appropriate county landowners in the same Burdick Road watershed. We could show them our examples on how to do their own bioretention areas and expand enhancements in water retention. We've got some experience, and by doing this project in this area, we feel like we could be a benefit to the local citizens in that as well. The more of them who participate, the less likely flooding is at Burdick Road and 1200 North. The backup that you see here,
I'm
this
sorry,
is
it's
the
not as good as
LiDAR.
what we send you digitally. You'll see it better if you look at what we sent to the committee.
The LiDAR shows how low it is and how much water it could retain. It's been estimated at holding
Millions.
like 18 million gallons. And the plans that are behind that are from the NRCS as they were projected back in 2018. So that's just a copy of the work, the engineering work that had been done.
Yes, in fact, Mike was just out there about a month and a half ago, checking on the work of the beavers. Right now, he's relying on beavers.
Oh, it's not people changing the board or anything out there like was happening 3
No,
or 4
he's
years ago?
a taxidermist, he's a hunter, he's a trapper, he's got contract,
the-
he's contracted by the DNR
previous-
to cover
The
it.
previous structure that was installed on the ditch needed maintenance, it failed, was never maintained, so now, yes, it's relying on the.
Yeah, there was a lot
beavers to
more
create that
on
water
that,
ponding.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of history here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, the first suggestion when it was pared down was really just for spring and fall, temporary, seasonal water. We're looking for something that would be year-round. And with the year-round, you get the benefits of flora and fauna and lots of other things. I mean, it's a totally different project. In 2017, when they did the Frame Farm NRCS, at the time, it was the largest water mitigation project they'd ever done in Porter County. And all we do was a center wetland that kept any runoff going into Reynolds Creek or the Little Calumet. Yeah, and we're.
But out there before, this was a war between neighbors on what the water level should be. And I know it played out here in our board, and it
Well, there was
wasn't fun.
There was a neighbor that had for a long time, when it was agricultural, from what I understand, I wasn't a member, Isaac Wallen wasn't
This
part
was
of.
just 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, because they thought they had another 50, 75 feet of frontage, but they never looked at their plat. That wasn't their land. So they could have picnics on it, but it wasn't their land. And when he converted it to this water structure, this seasonal water structure, they lost that and they were upset. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm glad I wasn't here for that. And it wasn't our land. The engineer, we had some information from a couple of different engineers, but they couldn't make this. They're covering 22 counties. So I'm sorry they couldn't be here. But really, they can't answer that because we don't own the land. We can't use, we can use part of their information to take a WAG method, a wild approximate guess. But we hope to come considerably underneath this. The Pagels project is interesting because the northeast corner of our Beavencop, which is south, we only own 2 acres north of Ferris, I mean, that's a recreational area, okay? And the south, we own about 40 acres, but the northeast corner of our Biedenkopf, his former wife, okay, seeps. The groundwater is so close, it seeps, and it becomes muddier and muddier towards the corner. And Mr. Pagels owns the other side, and he can do an easement, like we did on our 2 acres north of Ferris, to allow joining together to possibly as much as 6 acres and help any flooding that would occur east of us. That is the area that used to be called, on old maps, Page Creek, like during the page. And now they're listed as A, B, C, D, all these other things around. And the DNR, obviously, with their habitat for Reynolds that starts north of Burdick, they themselves have a new project with a national organization just a quarter mile up the road from Ferris, where they have 98 acres, and they're trying to alleviate flooding there and try to put the water on 10 so they could have 88 of grasslands. So really, this is old farmland that he converted into a water area that seasonally get all those other benefits. And we would like to make it a year-round thing. And then, obviously, in perpetuity, because we're part of the Isaac, the Isaac Walton National, covers us in case our chapter folds.
I noticed on here that you have a bunch of documents that were done by the USDA in 19.
Well, that's NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services,
Okay,
part of the
2018, that
USDA. In
was-
2018.
Okay. And was this part of a different project, or was this another
No,
project?
this was Ferris's property.
This is the actual property. It's like us picking up that project that didn't get off the ground last time.
Which means, in a way, that they are a match, because if they don't do it, we need that extra money, maybe with part of that in the administration.
I don't see
hiring somebody
I
local.
don't see anything in here about who's going to maintain this then, when it's done? Is Isaac Walton League going to
Yes.
maintain this?
Absolutely.
Yes,
And there'll be covenants and all that to,
in our charter, in our, yeah, everything we are self-funded. We are, there's no shortage of dreams.
well, I understand
You know.
that, but usually when you get into fixing problems and you have entities like yours involved, there always comes to arguments of how you fix it.
Grants,
That's,
just like the
that's
last
why I'm
week.
asking.
Yes, grants, yeah.
Well, not grants, it's how we're going to go about and do it. You know, what's the fix, right?
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
If I might fill in some blanks here, because
Yeah,
I
thank
spent a whole lot of hours
He
on
knows a
this.
lot about the area.
Back
Gee whiz.
back in 2018. I thought it was a great project at that time. Mr. Ferris, the property owner, had received the assistance from USDA and NRCS to design and construct this project. We worked very closely with the adjoining property owners to understand the issues. We worked very closely with NRCS on the design of the project to make sure that impacts on County Road 575 East were minimized. We've historically had a lot of standing water on County Road 575 because of the existing structure that was on Biedenkopf Ditch. I thought the project that was created and is reflected in the plans before you, the Stormwater Advisory Board and the Drainage Board approved it.
Right.
The only thing holding up the construction of that project and that moving forward was the unwillingness of the property owner to sign a maintenance agreement to maintain what was the structure that was going to go on the ditch. So I guess, you know, from my
Also get a new owner.
from my perspective, I have a little bit of
I see
heartburn
it.
now spending $700,000 to build a project that could have been built with no county money had somebody agreed to maintain it.
Well,
And that's how, I mean, that's just how I see
we
it.
were frustrated too, okay? And he's also a member, and they help us with some maintenance things for our public access areas of Biedenkopf, okay? I'm the big picture guy. I'm not an engineer, okay? A kid of the suburbs trying to learn all this stuff from scratch. Whenever I worked with multi-million-dollar projects for Fortune 100 and 500 companies, they had the budget. And I would say, you don't have a big enough budget for that, okay? And then I would also have to fight with all the individuals that were commenting on that project for that company and said, the client doesn't have money for that, okay? Now, you can give me some good ideas, and I'll go pitch and find you some more money. This is reverse osmosis, okay? I'm trying to do the other way around. I'm trying to bid high to be able to get money back, and I'm trying to borrow from one federal fund when I'm also going to get money from that federal fund. If I don't get NRCS money, we've got to do it locally. Now, ironically, you know, you helped us the other day with drainage. Luckily, the people that were working with the drainage at Frame was Green Line. And they have helped us with a project just to do our parking area at Biedenkop, okay? I would have to hire somebody like Green Line. We went through 3 bids to do our 2017 project at Frame, and he ended up being the one. Luckily, when he did our projects, he gave money back as a charity because I guess he needed a tax break. I don't know. I don't know, but would I have to try to do that by scratch? No, I'm hoping we have 3 years, and we have great hopes since we're already in the file with NRCS. And they want to do more of these projects, and this would be the largest mitigation project in Porter County, to go back to nature, that we're in there. And then all this money is not on the budget, okay? They want to do this, I've spoken to them recently, but there's only so much they can say because I wasn't the landowner. See, so I'm kind of stuck in the middle here. You see my situation, but that money would be out of the budget.
Yeah, but those issues are really critical to funding.
Exactly.
And to not have the covenants is problematic.
Well, what covenants do you want?
Well, the ones that they wanted the last time.
Yeah, the hold harmless agreement between, because this is a regulated drain, Biedenkop Ditch.
Right.
Yes.
Is a regulated
Yes.
drain.
Yeah.
It still does serve farmland in the
It's a
adjacent
pass-through.
area, and some urban land
Yes.
areas as well. You know, that, all that hold harmless agreement said, it's our standard hold harmless agreement. It just states that, look, the owner of the project is going to maintain that project in perpetuity, and that the county had the right to go on and inspect what was going on. If work needed to be done in an emergency, that we had the right to go on and do that.
We have those kind of mitigation agreements on every conservation fund that we used for buying every piece of property, because they are now wildlife designated properties in order for us to get that money. And some of that money was from the State Heritage Trust, some of it's from the Bicentennial Fund, some of the money for our properties is from the Conservation Fund, and they are very explicit about covenants and taking care of property. We had to remove an old barn silo and rusted farm debris and everything on a property, and we removed it and reused it at a different property because they had to have verification that all the garbage, like a farm usually collects in the corner, was gone. And otherwise, we would not have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars from them. So we're used to covenants. Yes, indeed.
You know, and we're not asking for anything extraordinary. Everybody that does a project on a regulated drain puts a structure in, adds an outfall, signs a similar agreement.
We were shocked.
Same thing.
We had no control.
I understand that.
Yes.
But you understand, like, my advice to this board is I'm a little confused why we would spend the $700,000 that could be used elsewhere when this project could already be done and doing all the good things that you're describing.
But
I think it's a good project.
With us, it's perpetuity. It's not a private citizen, whatever happens is to descendants, or if he sells it to someone else.
Any other questions?
Did I,
Go ahead.
Did I understand that right, that the person selling the land is an Isaac Walton member? Did I catch that or no?
Only because they help us with some maintenance things for us on Biedenkop.
And that's the person that
Our-
didn't
our-
sign the
our membership
agreement
is like
previously, but now wants
$100.
to sell his land so that the conservation can be taken care of.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I'm asking,
Is Ferris a member? Yes.
Yes.
and he is the one that wouldn't sign whatever the agreement was being asked of him.
That is
He was not a member when they went through all this controversy.
Now he's a
Oh,
member.
that's true.
He was not a member.
He's found the light. Okay.
Well, sell his property.
He was very much against this. He was very much against that we bought his divorced wife's land, okay?
That's what played out in our meetings, was that whole deal.
Plus a temporary member of our group was using us to sell his own business of conservation around the county and many counties, and we found that out, and he's no longer with us. But he was the guy that was approaching him. I had to mend all those fences, brand new, as the new president, taking over the chapter, because he hated
The
us.
relationship is.
Relationship is
It is.
very different now, very different.
It is.
But we would like to eliminate that and do.
All I got is the history that I experienced, so,
I've only heard stories, and everyone I've heard, I believe. Yes.
Yes, I had a question. You said that you were shooting high. What is the bottom line that you think you could do this project?
Well, we hope the NRCS funds all the excavation, and they would eliminate a lot of these other fees. And we would do the Pagels beating cop thing and do them at the same time. And they use low-cost government contractors that are going across the country so that we would be cheaper than the county costs to do it on our own,
With NRCS, it would drop it by about $230,000.
Okay,
real fast.
so
Yeah.
you're talking about like 570, 550, or?
Yes, and we hope to have a real appraisal of the property, so we've estimated high on the cost of his land.
Thank you.
Sorry, here's, I'm a bit confused. NRCS awarded in 2018 $115,000 under.
No, then they went through negotiations through IDEM and the DNR and the county.
So, well, I guess my question is, you have started in 2019, raised the new federal standards for $15,000.
Costs have gone up, obviously.
Well, but it was the work started, is my question.
Okay, so that's weird. It was meant to start in 2019.
Okay, so
But
nothing's
the
been
con-
done.
But the whole harmless wouldn't
So
be.
that's the estimate from that year?
Yeah,
Because
they-
at the start, I felt like
They
the money
award,
had been built.
yeah, they award in October, and then you do get your money in the spring.
Gotcha.
Okay, and in fact, they actually held it the next year, hoping he would sign. They extended it. We didn't know
NRCS is
that.
still excited to
We
do
found
the
that out.
project.
But that is the estimate of the project. It's not the work that project actually cost. It was the estimate at that time. All right, good.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
because
our-
the start was
Yes,
threw me off.
and even that project wasn't going up to the heights
was
that we
meant
want to
to
do to make it last an entire year, and
I
not just
also
seasonal.
recall on this project, Mike, I think there was only like one house on this road, right? Or was there two, and there was a railroad track that sort of,
That's right.
but you could drain through there?
The
'cause
watershed, the watershed
Back
extends quite, I mean, there's a significant drainage area that drains to and through here, south of the tracks.
Yes, and on the southwest side, somebody has built a pond. It's the crazy house with a turret on it. I forget the name of the family. They don't have a big enough pond, and it goes through the culvert and comes around and comes over to 575.
Well, we looked at that culvert.
I can't control them.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody has
That
to.
whole solution,
And-
they're
and the
piping it.
One of the primary concerns here with this project were County Road 575, and then there's an immediate downstream property owner whose property is impacted right now because there's a levee or a berm between the existing
Right.
wetland and their property, and it's just seeping through that berm.
See, we're trying to help
So
with the tiny portion.
the solution that was developed addressed both of those issues, but got all these project benefits and goals achieved at the same time. And that's why I was excited about it and supported it, but it all just sort of fell apart
Yeah.
and never moved forward.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he helped us at frame, he saw what was going on there, we thought it was going to happen, and he wasn't a member, and we couldn't help.
And my last question, and not to put you on the spot, but as the previous project we looked at with Shirley Hines Land Trust, that's going to provide some significant benefits for the county. Can you explain the similarities or differences between that project and this project?
Yeah, there are certainly similarities, right?
Yep.
So the Shirley Hines efforts that we partnered with them and the National Park Service and IDNR on would create plus or minus 40 acres of wetland, restore hydric soils to wetland condition. In addition to that, we would be able to do some stream restoration work and reconnection of floodplains, so significantly increase the flood storage we have available in the watershed, which would then help decrease downstream flooding as you move down the Calumet River, Little Calumet River system. So there's quite a bit of similarities. I mean, the same concept that is presented here with a water level control structure on a flow path, same concept that would be used to do the wetland restoration as part of Shirley Hines' efforts. Same kind of things with floodplain reconnection could be done. I think that's what Gary's describing with regards to the Pagels property.
Yes, and they are
connecting the
partners
two.
with
So-
us.
So there's similarities certainly between the two.
Mike, isn't there though on the Heinz one, that they're gonna part of that project is they're gonna redo an area, but then they're gonna take some of our regulated drain from us. That's in that same area, right?
That's correct. So they
So there's
will-
a big benefit to the county.
Once the project's done, Shirley Hines would take responsibility for maintenance,
Yeah.
essentially of all of that regulated drain in perpetuity.
Which, for us to get rid of some drains every once in a while isn't a bad thing. Let someone
And
else
that's what
take
that
it over.
zigzag line is, if you can see it on there, we would take control of that part of the regulated drain. Because there's no real drain there, it's just a trough.
Yep.
Yeah, we can only control beavers so far.
Any other questions from the group? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
The last group, Porter County Conservation Trust. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Going out to breakfast after this.
Hi. Thank you.
Mr. Maxey,
Thank you
how you
for
doing?
seeing us.
Sure.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about Westchester Migratory Bird Sanctuary project.
Thank you. So we've got a PowerPoint here we're going to go through quickly for you to
Can
familiar.
you give us your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Both, all of you. Oh, you.
I'm Mary Casca. I'm president of the board of the Porter Co-Conservation Trust. This is Richard
My
Maxey.
name is Richard Maxey. I'm the project manager for the Westchester Bird Sanctuary.
And we also have Janet Williams, who's a board member.
Okay,
So,
welcome.
thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thanks. Yeah, so we have some pictures to show you. We'd like to familiarize you with the Westchester Migratory Bird Sanctuary, which is the primary project of Porter Co-Conservation Trust. We're a small, not-for-profit organization. We're totally driven by volunteers. So everything that we've accomplished at the bird sanctuary has been through volunteers, like Janet and other folks. So our mission is to bring nature and community together through restoration, conservation, and education. This is an aerial of the site, which is on 11th Street in Chesterton. That track you see is the track for Westchester Intermediate School.
Okay.
So we are kind of in their back door of Westchester Intermediate School, and we're just north of Chesterton High School. So the skinny water area you see is Griffin Lake, which was given to us by the Griffin Lake Homeowners Association a few years ago. So this is an aerial of kind of what the site looked like when we began to work on the area. It's about 43 acres, and as you can see in the town of Chesterton, it's pretty much surrounded by residential homes. And as I said, we are a not-for-profit created in 2017. This project really got started in about 2014 with Richard here as the visionary project manager, and it really had its roots out of the Porter County Park Foundation. And there were two major parcels of land that were acquired. The first parcel was really on the west side, that was belonged to the YMCA. And then there was, on the east side was another chunk of land that was privately owned. And some of you may remember that what we call the northern part, or the upland, was the unofficial Chesterton garbage dump. So up until about 1963, people in the community would bring their household garbage and basically just dump it on the north end of this property. The southern end of the property is, the geology of it is a wetland, but over the years, there were various attempts to drain it, and some folks might remember there was a peat bog fire that went on, burned for quite some time. So our goal is to restore this as a habitat for migratory waterfowl. And it really fits into the Chesterton community area. Chesterton is a designated bird town.
and Chesterton area is part of a flyway of birds from North to South America. There are several flyways that go through the United States, north and south, but we happen to be in a flyway. And some of you may be familiar with the fact that up at the national park, state park, they do counts of birds and keep a board up there of birds that they site, and they have been having a bird fest. I don't know how many years they've done it. COVID kind of put a kink in that for a while, but in May or so, they have a bird fest. So
People come from all over the world to come up here for the birding.
Yes.
Because it's one of the most highest number of species in an area.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that, which is sort of interesting, I think.
And we have a lot of network and relationships with other organizations, including the Indiana Audubon Group, and Kim Een, who is the head of that organization, has been out at our site several times, and she's, Richard, you might want to comment on how many birds she's...
Yeah, she was out there last year, had an event out there, and she went out there and she counted 99 different species of birds that was at the sanctuary at that time, which is, I never went out there to count. That's a lot of birds.
That is a lot.
Those gabion walls are beautiful in there.
Yes.
Those are neat.
Isn't it?
If we could advance the slide. So yes, what you see there is the gabion wall, and interestingly, the purpose of that wall is to retain the garbage from migrating back into the wetland area. And this was an idea that Richard really learned about when he was contemplating what kind of wall to build. Do you build a concrete wall, a wood wall? There'll be issues with those sorts of materials. So the gabion wall idea is really, the gabion wall is made up of limestone that is put into rectangular boxes.
Chicken wire.
Sort of like that, a little bit more substantial than chicken wire. And so what you see in that, which I call the Great Lawn area, under that Great Lawn is garbage. And so we can advance through some of the slides here pretty quickly. Here's a little bit of an aerial view. I think I'm one of those two people standing there, but that's a really good view.
Yeah.
Comment on that gabion wall. Yeah, the gabion wall, I'm working with USDA, trying to understand how to control that garbage. We looked at treated timbers, but that rots over a period of time. Concrete wall falls. But we came up with the gabion wall, which is a English design. And some of the funding that we're requesting is that you can see where the wall is there, is to hold back the garbage, but it's also created limestone. So any of the drainage that drains through limestone purifies the water. So the object is to protect the wetlands from the filtering of the garbage back into the wetland again. And some of the fundings, if you can see that one gazebo there, that's where the wall stops, because it takes dollars to finish. What we would like to do would be to completely outline the sanctuary, the garbage dump, and to extend that gabion wall all the way down to what we call the Dunbar gazebo. That would will allow the garbage to, any debris, flow back into the wetlands, so we would like to protect that.
Richard, are you putting a plastic vapor barrier behind that wall, or how you stopping that leaching to come in there from the garbage?
The gabion wall is 3 foot by 6 foot.
So it's got to
And
work.
it's limestone goes in there. We built a foundation so it won't sink.
Yep.
And the gabion wall, it's heavy gauged galvanized steel baskets, which we purchased from a company out in Pennsylvania. But that wall is to last for hundreds of years. It hasn't sunk one bit because we put a good foundation in there. So it helps hold it back, and it keeps that, so the water that, through the rainwater and from the parking lot, drains through the limestone, purifies the water. And we did have water quality checks out there by different organizations, and water quality is really, really good.
Okay, good, that's what I was getting at. The water quality is good.
And that's what the limestone does, and it is Indiana limestone.
Yeah, well, there you go.
From down in Monon, I think it came from there. But,
So the extension of the wall, what's the distance or length of that?
oh, gosh, it's probably about, 3 times as long as what we have? I don't know the feet.
We need to put in about maybe 300 to 400 feet.
Okay, so that's a
to
big
follow.
part of
We have
what you're
to
asking
follow
for.
the delineation from the wetland to the upland, and we can only, because of Army Corps of Engineers, we can't do anything in the wetland, so we have to follow, that's the reason you see the design on that, because that followed the delineation by the soil scientist.
So, yeah, we have stakes out there now marking that delineation, so we already know where the wetland ends and the upland garbage dump area begins. And as far as the rest of the garbage dump area, we've worked these last 8 years to cap that. It was not feasible financially to remove the garbage, so we've been capping it with a lot of clay and reforesting the area by planting in mounds up. And a lot of what we do is to plant to create the habitat to support the birds and bees and butterfly and other animals. So a lot of things that we are planting are food source. So the area to the north is, you will notice a difference between that land and our southern area, which never was garbage dump. So if we could advance the slides. This is probably when the wall was new. This was our first structure donated by the Dunbar family, the Dunbar gazebo. This would be as far as the wall would come up to this area. Keep going. This was our second structure donated by the Nelson family in honor of their aunt and uncle. We're waiting to have our first wedding there. That hasn't happened yet. We can continue. This is a picnic shelter, which was, I think, our first built structure. That was done with some of the help from the Chesterton High School Building Trades class. And as I said, we are a small not-for-profit. This area is open sunrise to sunset. We charge nothing for, if anybody wants to come use the picnic shelter. In the last few years, because of generous donations from private people, we've been able to put in a well, and we have tapped into electric, so we can offer that. And we also plan to extend that water and electric farther north into the sanctuary. This is an open deck that's more on the south side of the property, and so these features that we've built are to allow people to come. All the trails were newly created. In fact, when I began volunteering, that was the first thing we did, was the trail that meets this deck, and that was funded by the Doolin Rotary Club and the Greater Northwest Indiana Realtors Association. This is a little bit of the kind of garbage that we have found, and we've maintained a little bit of an area where you can come see this, so that you can see how garbage like this, that was an unofficial dump, that they stopped dumping in about 1963 when they built Westchester Intermediate School, is still there. And how many years ago was that? 60 years or so? And as we heard earlier about recycling and so forth, this is what happens to garbage. It doesn't really go away. So the whole idea of recycle and reuse, you can sort of see what happens if we don't do a better job with that. This is an Argo. We have invested in several pieces of equipment, and that's a little bit of what we are requesting some of our funding for. But this is an amphibious device with tractor treads that allows us to go out into the wetlands. And this is a big part of what we're doing in the wetlands, to restore the wetland, to eliminate invasive species. So a lot of what you see there is either
Cattails are Phragmites.
Cattails, Phragmite, and reed canary grass. And a lot of when people see cattails, it is not native cattails that you see. What we have out there is invasive, non-native cattails that grow really tall. And when you're out in the Argo and they're 12 feet above you, so what we've been doing is to eliminate the invasives, to open up the water, and to allow native seed beds that have been sitting dormant. And we know this from Richard's work with Purdue biologists and others who say, if you eliminate the invasives, you can bring back the native wetland plants that also provide food for the birds. So we've been working on that. It's an ongoing process. We use an aquatic herbicide that does not harm animals or aquatic life. And as you can see, what stuff you see there is dead. And when you take the Argo out, it'll lay it down and we herbicide it. And it's just an ongoing cycle, a process that you have to do to eliminate the seeds of the invasives.
3 minutes left.
A trail we constructed. This is, I think this is a screech owl that's in a duck house. Now we have just some pictures of birds that some of our volunteers have kept. That's a red-tailed hawk, a heron, woodpecker. Now this is a real favorite. This was our sandhill crane family. And we've had a mating pair of sandhill cranes. They've had babies. People love to come out and see the babies. Now, I don't think that that's a bluebird, but that's a bluebird box. That is not a bluebird going into the bluebird box. We've heard also tonight about educational programs, and that's something also that is important to us. We do partner up with Isaac Walton League and the Nature Nights. And again, this is just some educational programs that are happening. One of our volunteers who loves to work in gardens that are designed to attract bees and butterfly. Volunteers planting. You can just keep going through some of our pretty pictures.
Beautiful.
So I'm assuming your attendance during COVID probably went up quite a bit.
So what we like to say is that, this is a bird sanctuary, but we also feel like it's a sanctuary for people. I like the fact that it's in the middle of town. You don't have to drive out of town to go and find a place where you can have a little peace, enjoy nature. And because it was an outdoor venue, people would come out, sit in the gazebo. We had a group of regular ladies who would come and bring a lunch and play cards, bring their dogs for a little walk. We have picnic benches. People bring their kids. We estimate that we get about 3,000 visitors a year.
And is that during COVID, how much more do you think it was? I know you're probably not out there counting.
Yeah, we weren't out there. We're mostly out there working. So, to be honest with you, we don't know. But we feel because it was an outdoor venue, it was an attraction.
It seemed like it did pick up a little bit, traffic, a little bit,
Yeah.
just from, okay.
And we get a lot of comments from visitors who say how much they see this area change, how it's evolved from an overgrown mass of trees and vines to what you see today. It's constantly been evolving. This has all been done through a small group of volunteers. We have not gotten any government funds. This has all been private donations from folks, which we've been very fortunate, because if we had to do this through a more formal organization or government agency, it might have cost a lot more.
Right.
Yeah. You'd probably be shocked at how much money we haven't spent, because Richard's been so good at getting donations of donations. I think he twists arms, but anyway, we get donated compost from the town of Chesterton, we get donated wood chips, we get donated slag, which is what our parking lot is, which has been washed to be environmentally.
Gonna ask.
Yeah. The slag.
It had to work with IDM to get the slag approved because it has to be cleaned so we don't allow any contaminants to go back into the wetland because that would defeat the purpose of doing it.
So this project has been ongoing for the last 8 years. I've been involved with it almost 8 years, but Richard was really the visionary, and he likes to tell the time when he was told it was impossible to do this.
Yeah, we applied, I was asked to apply for a DNR grant, and we went through all of the paperwork and everything else. And when we finally got the okay, we didn't get an okay on it. They said that they turned us down because that property is too desecrated. You can't never restore it. I mean, it's just a bunch of garbage, and especially with volunteers, you know. And I did work with the Army Corps of Engineers out of Chicago, originally with Poslowski, this congressman, but their timetable is way out of whack.
Yeah, welcome to the federal government, right?
So I decided not to do that, but we got turned down by the DNR because they said what you're trying to accomplish, you can't do it with volunteers. And I'd like for them to go out there and take a look at it now to see what we've actually accomplished, because I had to work with the federal, I work with USDA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, DNR, and IDM, and had to get a permit from IDM in order to cover the dump, because originally, most that type of a landfill or garbage dump, either we talked about digging it out and removing it, put it into a regulated landfill, but engineering cost was $800,000. So I got a permit from IDM to cover it and to reforest the garbage dump, and that's what we're currently doing, is to reforest it. Last weekend, we planted 190 berry bushes to provide a food source for the birds and the animals and stuff like that, so.
We also benefited from the NERPC Community Tree Program. We just got 13 trees. This is not the first year, and they're really nice sized trees. So we do partner and get those sort of resources.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Just for clarity, the funding is for the wall?
It's mostly the wall, and what we'd like to do is also improve some of our equipment that we'll need to kind of continue to maintain, because we're beginning to start to look at long-term sustainability and maintenance. So we'd like to purchase a new backhoe. We have an old Ford backhoe that's
the backhoe is 1987, and we've had to rebuild the engine, replace the tires and everything else on it. It's completely, you know, it's seen its time. We'd like to update that and get a smaller unit, and also we'd like to be able to build, you know, have some other equipment, like the Argo is getting old, and we have a lawn care lawnmower that we use to cut, and it's old. And we have a skidster that was 2006, and it's old.
Yeah, all of our equipment, except for the Argo, was bought used. So we'd like to invest in some new equipment for a more long-term maintenance and sustainability of the project. And the backhoe Richard's referring to, we could not have accomplished out there what has been accomplished without that equipment, which Richard's kept going with bubble gum and shoestring, but, so yeah, that's mostly with the rest of the funding, and I've totaled it up to about $96,000.
I'd like to congratulate you for the work that's been done up there. Look at just 8 years ago, what it was to what it is today is something that I think everybody could be, you know, especially proud of. And the transformation has been tremendous, and the approach that you folks have used in terms of collaborating with groups and
whether it's the Rotary or the Kiwanis or the building trades class and the private donors and all that. I mean, that's a kind of a storybook of how great things get done. And the benefit that people are receiving through the educational classes, Boys and Girls Clubs out there, families are out there, and the number of people that have been benefiting from it is tremendous. And
I'd like to, that's really speaks to Richard's vision, all of what you're saying.
I'm sure he'd say it's probably the support that he gives for everybody.
Yeah, we've had a lot of business people like Rudy Sutton. He delivers slag for us. Phoenix LLC donates the slag. T&M Tire, they fixed our tires for free because, we were nickel and diming. I mean, we sat there had a blown engine on that backhoe and $2,000, and they just simply didn't have $2,000 to rebuild the engine until someone stepped up and said, hey, I'll pay for that.
Right. And that's because they believe in you and the project.
In the project, yes.
So whether it's the educational component or the enjoyment of it, or the clean water component of it, or protecting the wetlands, the list goes on. It sounds, as the story is told, it seems like we might have found maybe another best-kept secret in Porter County that a lot of people aren't quite aware of, but hopefully they get out there soon to.
Well, I think in Chesterton, it's more well-known than, say, in the Valpo area. But, yeah, I think there is a story here about how a group of impassioned people can make something happen with good leadership, which is what Richard provided. So, I feel like it is important for people to be able to get out in nature, and especially with COVID, being outdoors, and birding is popular, so we just felt like we provide that sanctuary for people.
Yeah, congratulations all of you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one real quick, and I think you guys already answered this. It's a little bit of a technical question. The Gabion Wall, you already have a wetland delineation done, so would be avoiding
Yes.
any wetland
Yes.
impacts? And
Yes.
So permit, okay.
Yeah, we-
Just
yeah.
trying to get a handle on kind of schedule, timeframe. If you got to move into that permitting, arena, that can add to the length of the project, so.
We have stakes out there that you can see that
That's right, you
that
did-
marked,
you did
that
mention
mark the delineation. I'd like to read a little thing here that Janet shared with me in closing. And apparently this came from an Indiana Dunes trail map. And it says, "It is to be expected that the average citizens will find release from the tensions of their overcrowded daily existence, that the contact with nature will refocus with a clearer lens their perspective on life's values, and that they may be here take counsel with themselves to the end that their strength and confidence are renewed." So I think that's how I feel about this project, that's what it's really all about, and that's why I'm a volunteer.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you all.
Now we're going to move to the public comment section. We give 2 minutes to come up for your comment, and I was waiting for you. You know the drill.
My name and number, and Tom Danzak, 4302 Flint Lake Gateway. As a resident out at Porter County, for about 60 years now, out in Flint Lake there in the Conservancy District, I've seen it all. I have one short question. Does the facilities and infrastructure, does that maybe involve sidewalks or bike trails or something like that?
None of that is here before us today. There's been no projects that have been submitted for
So we're
that.
strictly looking at stormwater.
Well, it was the projects that were submitted. They were submitted by the public.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so, and then
talking
we had a
projects.
deadline and.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Relative to Kettle Lake, which has really been a big hurt there in that area, and particularly those homes that live in that particular section. A little bit of a history there. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of this started when those houses were in there before the major developments came into the city. And I don't know if you're aware, or anyone's aware, that the Flint Lake watershed has increased in size. Was it? How many years ago was that? Do you know, Mike? Well, the Flint Lake watershed used to be right along a line going east and west where the Pancake Restaurant is going up. Anything to the south there was in the Beauty Creek watershed. And so correspondingly, when they built the high school and that particular subdivision that's near the high school, all that was cut off. Silver Lake used to flow out to Beauty Creek. Are you aware of that? No.
I don't know the ancient history of it, but
Okay, well, I have never met you, Mr. Good. I don't think we ever talked or anything like that. You're in stormwater primarily, right? You're involved with stormwater.
Jeff, the 2 minutes has expired.
yeah, your 2 minutes are up, but,
Right, 2 minutes is up?
yep, that's what you just told me.
Well, I just had, my main question is this. It's to Mike Novotny. There's a section on Common Avenue right across from the Pancake Restaurant, which basically is zoned commercial. Now, that property, when Harley started to build that development, we filled in some wetlands. And correspondingly, that's where Kettle Lake started to have an issue. And that water drains off of Common Avenue, around the tennis court area there, and that's zoned commercial. So in a sense, the county somewhat has water flowing in the Kettle Lake, because you have that property to the on the west side of Common Avenue across from Pancake Restaurant is zoned commercial by the county. And yet that water does trickle into Kettle Lake.
Properties are in the city. Historically, that development was in the county, but currently that's been annexed to the city of Valparaiso.
That's what?
That area you're describing, the Social Security Administration building and La Peep Restaurant, I believe, is what you're referring to?
Not the Pancake Restaurant, I'm talking west of Common Avenue, that open area with all the trees.
Okay.
Pardon? That's zoned by the county, as far as I know. That's not city.
No, it is in the, I don't know the details of the zoning map there. That's correct. That west side is in the county. It's in VLA, but it's under VLACD's stormwater.
That's zoned county, that's not zoned.
Correct, but I'm not familiar with, I'd have to look at the zoning map.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that basically speaking, the county in some small indirect way has water flowing into Kettle Lake. And I'm all for the project. And it's a shame that basically speaking on the other one, Black Hawk Beach, that maybe some of the roads couldn't be patched up a little bit of hard surface. We're going to get the silt coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Here we go.
I'm not familiar with this process, so I just state
You
my
got
name.
2 minutes, state your name and go to
Hey.
town.
All right, I'll be really brief. My name is Jackie Anweiler, and I'm from Couts. I'm one of the managers at the Couts Pool. So I would just really want to encourage you that there's a lot of life that still happens south of 30 in the county, that our impact at the pool reaches the entire county. We have a lot of people that come down from the Chesterton YMCA. They bring field trips down. The Duneland swim team was coming every Saturday last summer. Growing Kids Daycare comes weekly with field trips. Our aerobics classes at this point are 3 days a week, and we have many women from Valpo and Liberty and Hebron and DeMott even. And we have families from all of those areas that are regular members that visit down there as well. So we're asking for your help. We thank you for your time. We often feel a little bit forgotten on the south side of the county, and I feel like this would be a great way to maybe restore some good feelings, to know that we're not forgotten down there. So that being said, just also curious when we might hear what the next steps are, the process of how this all might work.
Well, this committee is pushing everything to the steering committee. And our Madam Auditor is not here tonight. She's in charge of the referee, so to
Okay.
speak. And she is at a auditors conference down in Indianapolis because she's the head of the Auditors Association for the state. So, so she couldn't be here tonight, but there'll be communications, keep in touch with our website. Kurt over here is the guru on communications. Right now, we're just hunkered down in our committees, trying to work through all the presentations, and I know we still have some work here to do at this committee, but each committee will then push it to the central committee, and then they'll push it forward, and then that's when the commissioners and the council will then take action.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So the time frame, I don't know, because there's a lot of presentations and a lot of busy schedules right now, so we're hitting it as best we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Jeff, Scott has something to review with you. Let me get it.
Okay, should we get out of?
Out of public comment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So now, we're out of public comment, and I think we have one more issue that we need to do here with the county attorney. I think well, I'll let him bring it out. I think I know what it is, but I better wait.
Maybe it's a cake
Yeah,
or
he's
steak
holding
or
us-
some pizza or something.
Yeah, tacos. We're waiting for the Taco Bell. It's Taco Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday.
It is. I have them waiting at home for me.
Well, Sylvia, thanks for inviting me.
We'll split one.
I will.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So,
Doesn't
is
this,
this on the scoring? Okay, so what Attorney McClure is going to be handing out now to the committee is our Scott, go ahead. It's our
The first is
scoring.
the priority considerations that have come out of the steering committee that all the committees are working under. And then also along with that is a draft, kind of the scoring matrix that has been put together by the auditor in getting together.
And she picked not to be here tonight. I am the committee, right?
This got developed in the, some of the other committees, so there's some slight modifications to it for this or between committees, because different committees have slightly different requirements, but nevertheless, this committee wanted to make sure everyone had a copy and some time to
Thank you.
digest
Want to give you some
everything.
time to take it home and read it and understand it.
Then when we meet again, then that way everyone would be in a position to be able to make comment that maybe there's a section or two that needs to be slightly revised to be a little bit more specific to this subcommittee. But nevertheless, I do think this is probably a 90% or plus jump-off point. A lot of work went into this by the auditor, and I think maybe the behavioral committee and the auditor is kind of where it cut its teeth and got most of the central committee, along with the ARPA requirements and things like that, that had been generally talked about. So everybody has that, and we can review it at the next
Scott, do we
meeting.
want, if they have any comments, do we want them to email Vicky or you, or Vicky and you, or or me, or how do we want to?
If they want to make any changes to these, I think Vicky and Kurt,
Yeah.
that's where it started, and I think that's a good place to keep it.
Yeah.
And that way, we can come back to next meeting.
With my email address and stuff. Vicky's out most of this week, so if you have questions, shoot them to me and we'll get it taken care of.
Thanks.
I mean, just so you know, it may have a different title at the top with draft, but this is exactly the behavioral welfare subcommittee's matrix. Because we're dealing with the overarching requirements of the ARP and the central committee, that's why these are going to sound familiar. They just apply differently between the different committees. So, chance for everybody to take a look.
And then our next meeting here is Monday, May 2nd. It's at 1 to 3, and that's where we will be doing some scoring. We're going to be doing it, papers, turning them in, and then the auditor will be tallying them, and then giving out the average of the score for each project. And we're looking at, there's a couple projects we're looking at that we may pair up with another project because they're the same thing. So I think we have one or two of those. So we're also going to look at the committees and see if, we're going to have them all on by themselves. I think there's 3 or 4 that could be coupled with something else that will score together because it affects the area. So that's something we're going to do. So that's the information that we have tonight. Pretty productive meeting. It's 8 o'clock. So we got 3 hours in tonight. So I think we did a lot of good lifting, a lot of good presentations, and we thank everybody for coming. This board stands in recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I know that.
Well, our administrative fee is so high because we would have to call out of county. Everybody's busy. It's food time. It's a 6 cents.
Yeah.
We could cut that in half. You understand? No, I was listening to CS of the work. There's
That it has.
I think
I appreciate you guys, thanks.
I feel good until I get like the one that's like, I have no idea.
It looks much more.
You can see this is later, no, you really can't see it.